Well, welcome to all the night owls out there who are tuning in for Chris White Africa, the Night Owl Edition. Sorry, let me adjust my Santa Claus beard there. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Chris White Africa. I hope that you're having a good evening or a good afternoon, wherever you may find yourself around the world, as you tune in to watch this broadcast coming to you live from Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania, I should say. Let's see how the sound is here. Okay, and now, of course, I've got ads playing on my channel since I monetized it. All right. How's it sounding? Let's see. That sounds pretty good. All right, good. I'm always nervous now because of the microphone acting up on occasion, so just trying to make sure that things are running smoothly here. I trust everyone as well. Welcome back. Those of you who were here earlier, good to see you again. Those of you only tuning in for the first time today, welcome so much for coming into Chris White Africa. Happy to have you guys aboard. Yeah, I need to reopen my browser here and to get sound is good, Yanni says. Welcome, Yanni. Okay, let's get the session restored here. I'm getting a habit with Firefox. I know someone said, why don't you use Brave? I have Brave, but I haven't been using it as of yet. But one thing I did do is I have switched over every time I get ready to go on, I crash my browser intentionally to dump all the RAM that's being sucked up by the memory hog Firefox, a program I love, but it does become a bit of a memory hog. So let me see if my browser is working properly here. Okay, there we go. We're going to, oh, good, that's working. Right, folks, let's see who we got here in the chat. Say hello to everybody very quickly. Come on, you're in the wrong spot there. Come over here. All right, here we go. Okay, so who's there? Notorious G was here first. Well, welcome back, Notorious G. Goatin is here. I want to say, American people, please teach me how to pronounce water. Water. Although some of my relatives pronounce it water. As Sean said, water. It is water. Yes. Ranger Jake says, hey, long time no see. In fact, I answered your mail and you answered mine. So thank you. Azioba, good to see you here. Tian Preklasa, welcome. Robert ZA. Lynn is back. And there's Yanni. Hey, Yanni. Where was I at there? Okay, Yanni. Paulie's Paulie's here. Good to see you. Back for the time slot you like the best. Cool. All right. Well, times work for different people, different schedules. So not every time is ideal for folks. Just trying to find the right place. Janse van Rinsburg says, good evening to the Chris Wyatt tribe. Sound is good. Hello, everybody. Luke, the lead slinger. You guys have cool usernames. Zowie Jacobs. Well, that's kind of a cool name. I like that one too. Hendrik de Klerk. Christian Kriel. Good to see you there. I always think of Jesse Kriel. Immediately think of Jesse Kriel. Hendrik de Klerk. Wesley. Slots, Steamcom, good to see you. Ozzy says, Senator Ted Cruz has said that if Democrats take Texas, then Republicans will be out of national politics. The U.S. could become a one-party state like ours. I think that's a bit of hyperbole, but yeah, Democrats take Texas. That's a pretty scary thought. Perfect timing. Dinner is almost ready, says Ice. ZA. Cool. Barney Buys, welcome. Answered your message too. U.S. federal judge linked to Epstein. Yes, I've got that. We're going to talk about that if you like. Yeah, she's alive. She was in the basement. Her husband's wounded. Their 20-year-old son was murdered. Yeah, apparently by another attorney, it looks like. So who knows what was going on there. But anyway, folks, wherever you find yourselves around the world, welcome once again. And a little hint, yes, there are Easter eggs in the background if anybody's paying attention. So let's see if people can call those Easter eggs out. We'll see what's going on. Petrus Osthuizen, welcome there. Good to see you. Bosch Zebra says, evening, Colonel and all. Liking the Irish rugby union jersey, your favorite European rugby team. Yeah, Ireland is a team I root for quite a bit. When Brian O'Driscoll was on the team, I was a big fan. But honestly, when it comes to the Celtic nations, I tend to root for Wales more. But all of that falls way behind the Springboks. Although Sia Khaleesi has made it onto my list of turds. And I'm going to do a little digging, and we'll see if, in fact, he stays on there. But his comments coming out in support of Black Lives Matter, contradicting every single comment he's made about unity, teamwork, how wonderful the Springboks were under Rassie Erasmus. And basically, he said the team's wonderful. We all get together fine. It's great. This is a wonderful team. And now he's basically saying all this systemic racism nonsense. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a shame that systemic racism that took you out of abject poverty where you didn't even have a pair of shoes, put you in a posh school, a posh rugby feeder school, introduced you to the world. That's systemic. Yeah. Thank God there's no nice people out there to take care of you. Anyway, yeah, I know I'm missing the point. The system is unfair. Yeah, the system is run by black South Africans by and large. So if it's unfair, blame it on them. They're responsible for it. The African National Congress is overwhelmingly a black party, and it runs South Africa into the ground each and every day. The Epstein judge murder. Yes, we got that, Moderate. We've mentioned that already. Welcome. You may have just tuned in then. We're still not talking about Holodomor. What do you want to talk about on that? Yeah, Ice says Khaleesi completely dropped the ball. I need a USA rugby jersey now. Yeah. What's with the blue ball? Well done, Gareth. That's one of them. One of the Easter eggs. There you go. There you go. Our blood is blue. Look at that. What might this be but a Blue Bulls supporters ball? There you go. All right, folks. All right, we'll do the offload here. Just do it in the screen. There you go. Right, there you go. That's one of the Easter eggs. You've got it, is the Blue Bulls ball. Well done. Got a couple more Easter eggs back there for folks to look at. Children in South Africa eating grass and twigs. So Roman from Morning Shot says, I didn't get a chance to watch this video yet, but I did see the headline. Not surprised. Not surprised at all. Especially when you see morons running around burning crop fields. Did you see that video? It was on Twitter. I haven't shown that yet because I'm still trying to find out the provenance of the video. I shared it with someone else and they weren't able to help me out, so I'm trying to find out a little bit more about that. Call me crazy, Chris, but I don't like the ball. Petrus is upset about his icon went missing. Huh? What are we talking about here? Apparently, Petrus, if you like that icon, you can go back and change it manually yourself. That's what YouTube tells me. I don't have any control over that, I don't think. I can check later. Petrus, send me an email if you'd like me to try to change it back to the house. But what happens is with longevity with the channel, if you're a member, you get new icons. So specifically, let me explain what I'm talking about here. Let me just find my YouTube channel very quickly. Sorry, got away from it. So after 30 days, if you are a member in good standing, let me get back to that, you get a new icon. And that changes. Okay, come on, load up. Here we go. Taking too long here. So I need to get to the channel and look at my... Oh, Joe Emilio is on... Oh, he was already on. Was he on already? Must have been already. Yeah, so let me get the memberships here very quickly, and I'll explain what they all are so that you guys know. So if you are a member on the channel and you have been a member for... That's not what I want. Okay, serious. Loyalty badges. So you get... Sorry. Okay, after a new member gets a house with a little tree, that's your icon for being a new member. After 1 month, you can get the Moai. And I think it does it automatically. Though it says optional here, I think that's not optional. It really is optional whether I have it or not. So after 1 month, you get the Moai, and that's what it changes to. That's the figureheads from Easter Island. After 2 months, you get the Statue of Liberty. After 6 months, you get a castle. After 12 months, I've got the Matterhorn. And after 2 years, if you're still around, and I'm still around doing this, you get the entire galaxy. You get to see the night sky. So that's what those mean. Those just indicate ways for people to know that you've been a member of the channel for a bit and you are supporting the channel. So that's what that's all about. So I hope that clarifies things. That's how his changed. Sorry about that if it was unclear. Anyway, Chris, nicest ball I've ever seen, says Yanni. Well, I guess we know who the Bulls supporters are. Pretty easy to figure that one out, huh? Well, welcome, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Moderate says regime wants white teachers and children tested for racism at school. Oh, dear God. You got to love it. How do we go eat wild plants in North Korea? Yeah, it sounds like North Korea. Oh, Joey Emilio stream just finished. Okay, there you go. Thanks, Robin. Appreciate that. Thanks. I'll have to catch up on Joe's. I needed a break, and I had to do a little research. And, gosh, my beard looks like it's crooked. What's going on here? Is it glued on straight? There you go. Anyway, yeah, Joe's gang showing up. All right, well, cool. Then I hope Joe's channel keeps growing. If people are coming from Joe's channel to my channel, I want his channel to definitely grow. Yikes. Yeah, Sia Khaleesi does have a white wife. That is true. Yep, and mixed-race kids. So I'm sure everybody in that household is confused now that he's lost the plot for Black Lives Matter. Absolutely. Yeah, so let's bring up some of the news here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if there's anybody else to say hi to that's popped in here. Harley. Robin, Lynn, welcome, Lynn, excuse me. Hendo's there. His icon didn't go missing, Hendo. He advanced to a higher stage, a higher plane of existence. And yeah, that's right. Yeah, anyway, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've reached a higher plane of existence, searching for self-actualization. There you go. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen. Benjamin Cleric's here. Kobus Janse von Rendsburg. Yep, I had a little bit of rest. I had some things to do. Faf de Klerk is also into this BLM stuff. Are you serious? Anyway, yeah. Speaking of that, let's talk about that sort of Black Lives Matter stuff. This one's good. When this was reported on, where's it at? Come on, here it is. This was on Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino reports this. You're going to love this, ladies and gentlemen. You may have heard the story already, so let me share it with you anyway. If you haven't heard about it, you're going to appreciate this one. So here we go. Right. So a journalist says all Trump supporters are racist. Turns out her mom voted for him. Matt Palumbo posted this article today and says, never afraid to have the most absurd opinion on any issue. Former ESPN commentator turned Atlantic. There's the answer to the Atlantic, which is nothing but a racist, hate-filled, bloviating rag, which used to be a good magazine, but it's terrible. Writer Jameel Hill took to Twitter to inform her audience that Trump supporters want low taxes, the rule of law, a strong national defense, and a robust economy because they're all racist. If you vote for Donald Trump, you are a racist. You have no wiggle room, Hill wrote. There you go. There's her tweet from yesterday. The post went viral. Lots of people called her ignorant and a hater. And yeah, people saying they're voting for Trump. So is the rest of their Hispanic family. Ironically, among those minority conservatives that Jameel Hill apparently thinks are racist includes her own mother. Hill revealed in a 2017 tweet that her mother voted for Trump and has voted Republican since the Clinton presidency. Yes, my mother voted for Trump. She's been voting Republican since post-Bill Clinton. Jameel Hill, March 19th, 2017. It'd be nice to hear her explanation about why she's calling her mother a racist. See, this is what happens to woke tards, ladies and gentlemen. When you simply just take these positions without any substance or without knowing what you're talking about, this is what happens. The contradictions begin to pile up instantly. And now we see Jameel Hill, another idiotic fool out there running her claptrap, spewing nonsense, stoking racial hatred and divide in this country for no basis whatsoever. So basically what she said is that 63 million Americans are racist. Now that 63 million Americans includes between 3 and 5 million Americans who voted for Barack Obama, not once, but twice, to be president of this republic. So now they're racist because they voted for Donald Trump instead of the felon Hillary Clinton. Come on, man. I'll use my best Joe Biden voice. Come on, man. Woke tards. I hadn't used that phrase on my channel yet. This is the first time I used it. I'm very familiar with it, but first time I used it. Speaking of woke tarded nonsense, let's go to this. Watch the contortions that take place at the Associated Press as it seeks to undermine the English language with the misuse of adjectives. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Associated Press. White in lowercase, black in uppercase. This is from Joel Pollack. The Associated Press today announced, or on Monday announced that it would capitalize the word black when referring to black people. It would not capitalize the word white when referring to white people because of systemic inequalities. The AP explained there's more support for capitalizing the word black as opposed to white. Well, I'm more in support for, having magic cows on the basketball court, but we don't get magic cows. It further argued that capitalizing the word white would reinforce the idea that systemic inequalities and justice was legitimate. This is the gobbledygook that the Associated Press came up with. There was clear desire and reason to capitalize black. Most notably, people who are black have strong historical and cultural commonalities, even if they're from different parts of the world and even if they now live in different parts of the world. Well, there is a non-factual statement, a statement of supposition, a statement of stereotyping that's not supported by data. Or if it is, they don't offer the data. That includes the shared experience of discrimination due solely to the color of one's skin. Apparently, these woke tards at the Associated Press have never suffered racism for being Hispanic, Asian, or white. I have. There is, at this time, less support for capitalizing white. Oh, so that justifies the use of contorting the English language and grammar. White people generally do not share the same history and culture or the experience of being discriminated against because of their skin color. Clearly, these people have never been to South Africa, for example, or lived in neighborhoods in Baltimore, for example. In addition, we are a global news organization, and in much of the world, there is considerable disagreement, ambiguity, and confusion about whom the term includes. Okay, as is the situation with the term black. We agree that white people's skin color plays into systemic inequalities and injustices, and we want our journalism to robustly explore those problems. Well, why haven't you done it to date? The Associated Press is a century old. I don't recall any stories ever talking about that. But capitalizing the term white, as is done by white supremacists, risks subtly conveying legitimacy to such beliefs. What a bunch of nonsense. What white supremacists are you talking about? Once again, no factual information. But there you are, ladies and gentlemen, the Associated Press, a news organization, one that I once was published in, the AP. Shame, shame, shame. For shame, for shame, for shame. Childish pandering. If you're going to do this, I've already stated my position on the use of these adjectives and how I do it differently for South Africa because of historical purposes and a continuing contemporary context where white and black are capitalized along with colored and Indian or Asian. But that is not the case in the rest of the English-speaking world because our context is different. The AP is disgraceful. They're shameful and they're bigots and they're fueling hatred. And that's the bottom line. There you go. Bottom line. Period. Anyway, all right. Let's get back to the chat and see where I'm at. Yeah, Garrett said he didn't like the ball. All right. ANC has won the battle. Everybody waiting for them to decide whether your kids go to school or not. Oof. Brett says, what are some of the most dangerous African nations besides South Africa? Dangerous from conflict or security. Kenya is very dangerous. A colleague of mine was shot in the stomach in a carjacking there as a colonel in Kenya about 15 years ago. Kenya is dangerous for crime, high crime, like in South Africa, with carjackings, home invasions, murders, but also because of Al-Shabaab attacking targets along the Swahili coast. Yeah, so Kenya is very dangerous. There are other places that have serious security issues. Cote d'Ivoire and Abidjan has had historic problems because of the conflict there. I'm not sure. Petra says, I'm a stonehead now. No, you're a Moai. A Moai, not a stonehead. Yeah, so that's a couple places really dangerous. There are others, but those two come to mind off the top of the head. One of the ministers of education wants all white teaching pupils tested for racism. The fact that someone would make a statement like that demonstrates, without question, that that person is a racist. Morons. If I have to declare couldn't kick a ball to save a black person's life. Well, Gareth, perhaps, but his job as scrum half in the 2019 World Cup was more than enough. Did the trick. Do you not like his box kicks? Is that the point? Or are you just not a fan? Or are you just angry at him now because he's apparently doing that? I haven't seen any reporting on it. If that's true, I'll look it up. Brett says, Petrus has some cool-looking rhinos there. I love rhinos. Yeah, by the way, in case you didn't know that or you're not keeping up the score, folks, we do have custom emojis for members. And one of those custom emojis is, in fact... Come on, where's it at? Here you go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to put this one up there. There you go. Oh, love it, love it, love it. There you go. That is the Donald Trump emoji, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a Simpsons character. It's actually an emoji for Donald Trump. Carl Svot says, Hochandit Mata. Oh, cool. Oh, things are going well. It'd be an interesting family gathering. Black Lives Matter never mentions the Rwandan genocide or the 3 previous Rwandan genocides or the Burundian genocide or the 5 million people killed in the Congo by other black people. No, they never mention that. The Biafran War, Somalia, and Ethiopia. No one talks about that. Or the tens of thousands of people butchered by the Zimbabwe Defense Forces in Matabeleland. No, we don't talk about those things. Yep. Brett says, do you think the Vatican Catholic Church were complicit in 94? No, I don't, Brett. I don't think that. How do you think lots of people just support out of ignorance? Absolutely. Absolutely. And to be fair, people support issues on the other side of the spectrum out of ignorance too. But the other side is not as dangerous as these people. Black Rhino Lives Matter. Thank you, Petrus. I got that. I didn't just come out and say it, but I appreciate that. Dyslexic Lives Mattress. For those who watching Ronaldo, he's been called a snow ape before. That racial slur I'd never heard of before, but he's called a snow ape. So I did a hashtag snow apes matter. Yeah, they've been bashing Trump since day one. That is true, Robin, absolutely. Trump's got a lot of flaws, but there's nothing out there that compares to him for effectiveness. The guy's got it done. Bowing out for a minute to reset my browser. Okay, pause everything for Gareth. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to now pause the programming for Gareth. Give him a moment to come back. Yeah, that's the moment you got, Gareth. You didn't get any longer than that, so you got to get back quicker. Hank Adrian is back. Good to see you there. Mario's Crew Comp, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for the custom emojis there, the U.S. flag, the medal, the South African flag, and the thumbs up. Oh, Gareth is back, so you didn't miss anything. That was quick. Wow. Helen says, what a lot of rubbish. I assume you're talking about the woke tards. Need to get a MAGA icon. Yeah, I'll have to work on that. But I need more subscribers, ladies and gentlemen. I don't get more custom emojis until I get more subscribers. I don't even know what the next level is. It's 75 members. Right now we have 76, actually. Let me see if I can pull that up. The members goal. Let's put that up, see if maybe somebody joins. It worked. Somebody joined yesterday. Was it Robin or somebody joined? 76, trying to get to 100 by the end of the month. That's 11 days away. Yes, so if you get more members, you're allowed to have more custom emojis. So I have 13 custom emojis right now, and I have to get up to a higher level to add that in. You have to be a racist to recognize one. I don't know about that, Helen. I don't know about that. Petrus is special. If you can identify someone who mistreats people based on their racial identification, that doesn't make you a racist. It just makes you observant. Tian, it was Faf du Plessis who took the knee. Oh, okay, not Faf de Klerk. Yeah, I was going to say I hadn't seen the reporting on it, so. Whoops, what's this? Okay, hang on. Okay, hang on. I'll try not to butcher this name. Jazurua Wazeo. Well, I know I'm butchering that. My apologies in advance. Hi, Chris. What are your thoughts on the African Union possible free movement of people in the future, considering some states take action on their issues with insurance, terrorists, etc.? Oh, that's a really good question. Jezura. Can I just say Jezu? Sorry, Jezu. I'll say Jezu. Jezu, yeah, my thoughts on the African Union. Well, the African Union is not what people think it is. That's the first starting point. You have to begin from that position. If you assume that the African Union is the equivalent of the European Union, you're going to be disappointed. The European Union actually has sovereignty over member states. It actually can dictate and punish states for things that they do or do not do. One reason for Brexit, because the Brits had enough. They had hatful, nasaful of that stuff up to here. So the African Union doesn't have that kind of authority. It's a gentleman's club, a gentle ladies club, in which they must reach consensus on things. And so as a consequence, it's very limited in what it can and cannot do. Yeah, it was the cricket FAF, not the rugby FAF. Anyway, so the African Union is not a governing body. It's a consultation body that, by the way, only provides about 15% of its funding. The rest comes from the European Union and or the United States, much of it from the European Union. The United States does not directly fund the African Union for its operations, but it does fund its peacekeeping operations in a major way, both bilaterally with partners that go to peacekeeping missions like Uganda, Burundi, other countries, Rwanda, and directly to the African Union, between the two of them. So the AU would not exist if European Union and the United States walked away, because they'd be bankrupt tomorrow because Africans don't pay for it. Shocker. Like many things in Africa, they don't pay for it. While they lambaste the West for colonialism and neocolonialism and racism and all this other stuff, they gladly take billions of dollars from those people and waste it on things that don't get accomplished. Now, the African Union does have some value. It's come up with some great frameworks, some great strategic thinking, some long-term paths for improving development, improving life across the continent. But it is limited in that its members must agree. And that's a problem. It's also limited by the fact that everything it says and does is recorded and cheated on by the Chinese. I've worked in the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, and I have observed the Chinese hanging around with no reason years after the building is finished, hanging around, listening, paying attention, accessing parts of the headquarters building no one else is allowed to go into. For what purpose? We later see reporting from Le Monde and a number of sources saying that they were spying on the African Union, which I suspected from the get-go. So why is that important? Well, if you are trying to negotiate with an external partner and they are privy to everything you say in private conversations to discuss how you're going to get a better bargaining position, then you're going to lose. And that's the bottom line. That is the bottom line. Kobus Reinach has far better improved himself. Kobus is good, and he had an amazing hat trick. I was there in Kobe watching him score a hat trick against Canada, I think it was. Amazing. I was actually in that end of the pitch, and all three of those tries were scored right in front of me. It was amazing. Yeah, I was about 10 rows up in that end of the field. But I don't know if Kobus was the better choice. I think the platoon system that Rossi had was surprisingly quite good between Faf de Klerk, Kobus Reinach, and Herschel Yankees, all of which were really talented. Benjamin says, did you guys hear the chat on Loving Life with Scott that Haltang, MEC, Lefus's appointed group to investigate white teachers? Yeah, no, that's what people were talking about. I did not hear that. Now I know where it came from, so I'll have to check into that. That's not verified in any way. That's just people saying that. So I don't know if that's true or not. We'll have to check into that. But it doesn't surprise me, the African National Congress. The fact that anybody can just make that statement and just try to come up with that nonsense is just comical beyond belief. Anyway, yeah, so, whoops. Whoa. All right. There we go. I've saved that now. Right. Azioba says, I know rumors are not to be believed, but what if Ramaphosa actually does do what Mexico did in 88 and implement free market reforms and move South Africa to the right? Well, that's never going to happen. Azioba, that would have to, in order for the free market to succeed, you'd have to eliminate corruption. You can't have pervasive corruption, and you can't have things like BEE, and you can't have things like expropriation without compensation. The ANC would have to abandon those entirely, and I see no reason why they're going to do that. They should. Lezan is here. Welcome, Lezan. I like she's using the Trump. It's funny to see the Moai, and then after the Moai, you see 3 Trump icons. That's kind of cool. Cry my beloved country. Yep, absolutely. Renner Duplessis Faf is angenehm. He's geen Duplessini. Okay. You can say Jazz. All right, Jazz. All right, thank you for that. Instead of Jesu Jazz. Sorry, Fraught. Okay, you guys back and forth on who it was. We'll figure it out later. Fair enough. Herschel Yankees was better. Should have brought Ryanek on and stuff for him. Yeah, I think Gareth, that's probably good. Herschel Yankees is really talented. Kobus is too, but he's getting up there in years, whereas Yankees is still a young guy, so we'll see what happens. Rainier says, it's too much for me for an Afrikaans at the moment. AU dictators backing slapping club for swapping ideas on how to steal more. Yeah, but not all are dictators. Some are legitimate governance who are there sitting as the African Union chair. So, yeah, it has value. ANC should change the name to the African National Communist Party. Yeah, I won't argue with that. That sounds pretty good, actually. So, by the way, to my left on the screen is the membership goal. So that's for folks who would like to become members of Chris White Africa. Membership is open. Let me put a cap on. My hair starting to get out of control again. Here we go. There you go. You guys like that one? That's the Collegiate Rugby Championship. I'll put that up there so you guys can see it. There you go. Penn Mutual Collegiate Rugby Championship. It's a tournament that takes place every year in May, late May, over in Philadelphia, at Chester, which is a small town on the river just below Philadelphia. Oh, get this thing straight. There we go. I think my head's crooked. There you go. That's the problem. The head's crooked. Anyway, so yeah, the CRC is the Collegiate Rugby Championship. Teams from around the country, about 20 teams in the men's and I think 12 teams in the women's tournament, show up for a weekend of rugby sevens. And it includes the likes of Cal and Dartmouth and other schools like that, Life University, Kutztown, Penn State, Naval Academy, West Point. Lots of teams show up. It's a really exciting tournament. It's really well done. It's a nice field they play out there. Keep changing the name of stadium, so I have no idea what to tell it is now. It was PPL Stadium, then it was something else, Talon Energy. I think it's Talon Energy now. But anyway, so the Collegiate Rugby Championship takes place every year. Pretty good stuff. Didn't take place this year as far as I know. Thoughts on World War II. That's right. Kobus wanted me that. Okay. Your left or your right? Well, on the screen, it would be on the left of the screen, to the left of the screen. So that's what I'm talking about. Not my left. I did say my left, but I'm saying when viewed from the screen. So for clarity's sake, yeah, there's nothing to my left. Paulie says, what's with the so-called Muslim genocide going down in China? You're talking about the Uyghurs. Do you know about it? Yeah, I assume they're talking about what's happening to the Uyghurs, which is a large Muslim group from Central Asia. It's part of China, and they've been going after them. Is rugby as big in the States as football and baseball? No, it's not Take 5. It's nowhere near as big, but it is huge. We have the largest number of rugby players on the planet, those registered to play rugby. It's large in the United States. Yeah, it's the largest in the world. I think that's right. I checked that figure out a while back when I was doing another video, checking the current status number of registered rugby players that we have. Rugby's been a sport at the club level. It's been huge in the U.S. for a long time, but it never had a professional level. It never caught on. If rugby had gone professional in the 30s, then the U.S. would have been a world power in rugby for sure. But it didn't become a professional sport until 1996. So consequently, other sports eclipsed it here in the U.S. because there was no money for players to make from it. Whereas sport has been a big spectacle in the U.S. for decades, and people have made livings off of it for a century plus. That wasn't the case with most sports around the world until more recently. Soccer or football didn't really start making money and wasn't a big sport for people to make money until a few decades back, whereas baseball and football had long been the case in the U.S. If rugby had started in that fashion back in the 1920s or 30s, then we would have been world powers in the sport most likely. But it didn't. It remained an amateur sport, and as a consequence, it was neglected in the U.S. But it is very popular here in the U.S. It's huge in our colleges. That's correct. I think someone just asked that question. Gareth says we'll become a superpower. We already are in sevens, men and women. And in the women's 15s, we're a power. We're one of the top 4 teams in the world. In men's 15s, we got a ways to go. Although we did have an undefeated test season, a season in which we defeated Scotland just 2 years ago. So we'll see what happens. We do kneel before women, though, but only if she's a lady. Okay, Drian sees 2 Easter eggs. I recall U.S. Olympic champs 2 consecutive Olympics in a row, 1920 and 1924. The U.S. shocked the world by winning both Olympic games. We were 2-time gold medalists until it was returned as sevens. That was 15s. It was turned to sevens in the 2016 Rio Olympics. Okay, a question for Kobus Jansa van Rensburg. I started to say Bach. Rensburg. Thoughts on World War II and what happened in the war? My question previous stream, if you can answer. Yes, Kobus, I'll answer that. Then I'll get back to Brett's question there. Okay, so World War II, in many respects, is a direct consequence of the unfolding of the First World War. What I mean is that the system of monarchies and empires was destroyed as a consequence of the outcome of the First World War. So the Russian Empire disappeared, and the monarchy went with it. The German Empire disappeared, and the monarchy went with it. The Austro-Hungarian Empire disappeared, and the monarchy went with it. So there are countries that remain with monarchies, but they were small and not particularly powerful countries, and they didn't rule the roost, whereas these huge empires had been around for centuries and had ruled the roost. So the seeds of the Second World War were set by the end of the First World War in many respects. One of which is that the United States, rather than remaining engaged in the world, as it had become during the First World War, withdrew from the world and was isolated on itself yet again. So that had an impact on future events. The Germans were punished heavily for the First World War and blamed unduly for the war itself, although they were certainly responsible in many respects, but all European countries were, for their rapid mobilization and commitment to conflict rather than negotiation. But the Germans were hit with massive reparations, and they paid them back over a number of years, had a big impact. 1/3 of, well, not 1/3, but 1/8 of Germany was occupied by Allied forces up until 1936. The Rhineland had African colonial troops from France occupying it for years. That presence was resented by Germans. Lots of things contributed. The Great Depression played a role. All these things combined. And there was a lack of a democratic tradition, strong democratic tradition in many parts of Europe, which led to authoritarian autocratic states. As a consequence, these states embarked on a path that was inevitable for conflict, particularly Nazi Germany and Communist Soviet Union. Diametrically opposed systems, but both based on the same thing: a lack of free speech, a lack of freedom of assembly, a lack of choice, totalitarian rule by elites, state control of the economy. Very similar concepts, even though they were diametrically opposed. Those two were embarked on a path of conflict. Meanwhile, fascists arose in Italy in the 1920s with Mussolini, gained power, stayed in power for a long period of time, stopped civil liberties, ruled the country as a fiefdom, and looked for self-aggrandizement to increase the size of their empire, both in in Libya, Albania, and also in Ethiopia, trying to get back historic Italian territories in their mind. So the war was inevitable in some respects. What happened? The First World War, the Axis powers wound up in conflict. The Soviets and the Germans agreed a dirty deal to divide Poland. And this had been happening to Poland for 400 years, so it wasn't particularly unique. It wasn't the first time, but they both invaded in 1939. The Soviets were not seen as the aggressors, even though they were the aggressors. And the Nazis were seen as the aggressors because of their belligerent attitude leading up to this conflict, both in the Sudetenland, the annexation of Austria, demilitarization of the Rhineland, and so on. The Danzig crisis for Gdansk now, which is Danzig in German. Anyway, all this contributed. So the war was fought. Tens of millions of people died as a consequence of it, and the entire global order was reshaped once again. The only major power on the planet unscathed by the war was the United States. Largely unscathed. Now, we lost a lot of people, casualties in combat, and it had tremendous impact on the country, changed the character of this nation in some respects, but our country wasn't destroyed, whereas European countries were all in rubble. And Japan was in rubble. China was in rubble. Korea was heavily damaged. The list goes on and on. So that's kind of what happened in World War II, and it set the stage for the post-war. So all these things build off each other. Hopefully that answered your question to some degree. Paulie says, didn't Nigeria have the highest GDP as of 2019? That is true. Nigeria refused to what's the word I'm looking for here? Not reassess, but essentially it was reassess their economy and change the metrics for years. They finally did and found out that their economy was twice as large as South Africa. And that doesn't even properly include the informal economy, which would make it even larger. Lezan says, I would have been brilliant in rugby, played fullback on a boys' team, but puberty happened, no girls' team. Yeah, it's really sad, Lezan. Now we have girls' teams now. It would have been cool. Brett says, wealthiest African country in terms of per capita income. Is that Mauritius? Botswana's up there. Mauritius is up there. You got me off the spot. I think it's one of those two. Gabon was always pretty high, but their population's increased, so I don't think they're as high as they once were. But per capita, I think that's two of the highest. USA sided with the wrong guys and ended with the Cold War because of it. So who should we have sided with, Garrett? The Nazis? Is that what you're saying? I don't agree with that at all. Not even close. Yeah, so let's check back on the news items I want to cover here, guys. So now they've addressed the chat a little bit. Right, so the Associated Press playing games with black and white. And here's some good news. Mauritius again. Morton probably thinks I'm in love with Mauritius. I'm just saying. Don't worry, Morton. You'll be out there in a couple days. It'll all be okay. You get to go back to South Africa, where COVID is raging out of control with nearly 400,000 people now confirmed. Here you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's some good news from the Epoch Times. Someone's asking about good newspapers to read. The Epic or Epoch Times was, I think they pronounce it Epic, was what's this? Now it's, it gave me access to the article earlier. I read it. Now it's telling me I have to have a subscription. Anyway, President Trump is vowing to send federal agents into cities where armed insurrections are taking place and their mayors and governors have failed to protect citizens. That includes Chicago, Detroit, New York, Baltimore, Oakland, and Philadelphia. He said he'll send more federal law enforcement personnel to major cities facing a surge of violence: New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Baltimore. Yep, we want more federal law enforcement. That I can tell you. Yep. And the left is losing its collective mind. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Yep. All right, so back to this story. I never finished this story. The Associated Press, the white and uppercase and lowercase. By the way, this is by Joel Pollack. Joel Pollack is a senior editor-in-large at Breitbart News and host of Breitbart News, a Sunday program on SiriusXM Patriot. So does anyone know about Joel Pollack, where he's from? Anybody want to take a wild guess where Joel Pollack was born? Give you a chance to do it. Rob McLaren's here. Welcome, Rob. Good to see the roadies back in the house. Lynn is here, too. Get me back here. U.S. side of the wrong guys. Okay, covered that Mauritius again, aren't we all? Gabon has fallen badly. Yeah, exactly. They were high up there, Tian, but they've fallen way back. 14 days quarantine. You'll be free to eat some grass and bring some smokes and booze. Yeah, I wonder if they'll ease up on how much booze you can import to the country. Nope, I'm sure they don't. Lezan says, but I have to say, got hurt way more in netball than I ever did in rugby. Yeah, girls do play dirty. Nasty, too. Portland needed federal agents there. Portland has become a third world country. It's definitely got problems. Jazz says, thanks for giving your thoughts on AU. What are your thoughts on how Africa capitalized in the fourth industrial revolution? Do we have the infrastructure in place to transform our continent? Short answer is it can. Does it have infrastructure in place? No, it doesn't. There's a lot that can be done. The problem is that, Jazz, is that most education in Africa is just plain weak. Sorry, not to be offensive. I've lived all over the continent, and I wish it well, but I've seen education in most of the continent. Most education is rote memorization. It's tyrannical instructors who demand students do what they're told, leaves very little room for creative thought and critical thinking. They don't teach critical thinking skills. And as a consequence, you get students who are woefully prepared to attend. I see it with African students who come to the U.S. to attend university. Many of them are not well prepared unless they went to a private school. And even then, they aren't always prepared. I think it's a real problem. And this is a problem across the continent. Education is still the biggest broken part of the post-colonial era across Africa by and large. In fact, in South Africa, education has gone backwards. Instead of improving the Bantustan education or the Bantu education system, it's actually gone backwards. And now almost all South Africans get an abysmal education, except for those who can afford to pay for a posh private school. Yeah, netballs are hard. I prefer hockey. Okay, Helen, thanks for sharing that. What did Lynn say that's terrible? I missed that. What did Lynn say? Lynn said you got to watch Joe's stream, and then somebody said that's terrible. Okay, I haven't seen Joe's stream, so oh no, Lynn, what's going on? What happened? What was Lynn? All right, well, I'll ask for somebody to share me that. Oh, there's Erica. I didn't see Erica. You slipped in there. Okay. And then Brett says, did you hear about U.S. authorities seizing former Gambian President Yama's Maryland mansion? I did not. South Africa farmers do matter. Yeah, they should. Education is horrible. Left teaching, hubby prof, kids are like parrots. Yeah, hockey balls are hard. So are hockey pucks. Doggy boy. Hockey pucks are quite hard too. You ever been hit by those? Yep. Brett says Japanese education overrated. There are a lot of memorization of facts, a little more creative thinking there. Korean education used to be like this. Yeah, that's true, Brett. And people have always said that for a long time. Oh, okay. Thank you, Lynn. I didn't see that. Okay, thank you. Another farm murder. Jesus. Anyway, yeah. Out of control. Absolutely out of control. Nonsense. Horrible stuff. So people were asking, good evening, Charles. Welcome. People were asking about mentioning the situation with that case with Epstein. Let me bring that back up for folks. We'll talk about that very quickly. So on that situation, here you go. This is it. Suspected gunman in Jersey killing of judge's son found dead. Judge was recently assigned to a case related to Jeffrey Epstein. This is the Deutsche Bank case. The individual suspected of shooting the husband and son of U.S. District Court Judge Esther Salas on Sunday evening has been found dead of what appears to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound, according to law enforcement officials. Daniel Anderl, Salas' son, with her husband. There you go. That's them right down there in the picture. Let me pause that. So there's her husband, there's the son, and there's the wife. Salas' son with her husband, defense attorney Mark Anderl, was shot fatally in their New Brunswick home on Sunday evening by a gunman disguised as a FedEx driver. Mark Anderl was also wounded, but is now in stable condition, seems to be okay, according to Esther's brother. Authorities believe that an attorney found dead in the New York town of Rockland in the Catskills was the shooter. Officials, including the FBI and U.S. Marshals, are investigating whether the gun was found at the scene matches the one used to kill Judge Salas. Yeah. Well, all I've got to say is defund the police. Who's going to investigate this? Let alone protect people from this sort of thing if there's no police to do this. Social workers? Please give me a break. Yep, that's the story you guys were asking about earlier. Never understood. In rugby season, 1/4 of school kids play because mommy is worried. Come hockey, the whole school is there. Hockey balls do more damage to a face than lying on grass does. Yeah, no, Gareth, the thing about rugby is it has a bad reputation, which is unfair and unearned. People talk about how dangerous the sport is. It's brutal. But and people compare it to American football, where they wear helmets and pads, and it's far more dangerous to play rugby. In fact, it's not. Look at the actual injuries, the type of injuries, the percentage injuries, the career-ending injuries that take place in rugby, vice those that take place in football. They both have in common a concussion issue, but in World Rugby, they've taken concussion protocol seriously for a decade longer than before the NFL even brought the topic up. So I think that's an important consideration to have in mind. Kung Fu Kenny has joined us. Thank you so much for that. Helen says, I can vouch for that. A hockey ball hit me in the face. Ouch. Sorry to hear that, Helen. Hope it still kept you lovely and attractive and it didn't leave any marks, permanent damage. Kung Fu Kenny, these people that say rugby is dangerous, have they heard of boxing, mixed martial arts? Yeah, baseball is dangerous if you get hit in the wrong place. People have been killed before they used to wear helmets, getting beamed in the head. Yep. A failed hit, maybe. Yeah. Jute had a report on the farm murder in Moai River. Okay, thanks for that. They want to tax stock trades. Well, stock trades are already taxed, Hendo. I already pay. I pay a fee and taxes on stock trades to the Securities and Exchange Commission, but they want the money to come to them, not to the SEC. The money for the SEC is used to hire investigators to investigate securities fraud, things like the Ponzi schemes and all that nonsense and Bernie Madoff. But there's only about 4,500 investigators that work for the SEC, and they probably need about 50,000 to do a proper job. But they already charge us taxes on stock trades. That's already part and parcel of what's going on. There's fees involved there. Absolutely. Gareth was a tight head, bent over backwards and touched my... It hurt. I was back the next season, not for the whole season. Might be soft, though. Yeah, he might be soft, Gareth. It's funny. Now you know why I play on the wing. I'm not getting in that scrum. No, thanks. Nasty things happen in scrum. Was it Helen or somebody was saying a few minutes ago that girls play dirty? Yeah, well, the scrum is dirty. People don't get color for our ears just because it's a natural development. It's a result of what happens in the scrum, among other things. But anyway, yeah. So, you'll find me not there. The shooter shot himself. How is that not odd? That's not odd at all. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. Yeah, it's not uncommon. Reality meets Hollywood. Escape from New York. Love Kurt Russell. Exit from New York is leaving for the countryside. Robert says it's amazing. There's no news on farm attacks. Murder seems made. They don't report on it. Never talk about it. Lynn is going to bed. Good night, Lynn. Feel better. I hope that you're not too down about hearing about the farm murder. Rugby fell apart when they brought in too many rules. What's wrong with punching locks? They're not too sharp anyway. Your uni is useless. Sorry to hear that, doggy boy. Good night, Lynn. Yikes. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Fair point. I'll take that one. I'll take that one to heart. I like that. So what else was there? There were some other things I wanted to talk about here. I'm trying to find them very quickly. Oh, yeah, here you go. Let's see if this still loads up properly because I had to reboot the browser. Yeah, let's put this one up. The Comedy News Network, also known as CNN, is reporting that the University of Oxford has a vaccine that's safe and induces early immune reaction. Early results suggest. Preliminary results of the phase 1-2 trial of the coronavirus vaccine developed by the University of Oxford suggest that it is safe and induces an immune response. Woo! Yay! But does it induce an immune response sufficient enough to protect you against the virus? The vaccine provoked an antibody response within 28 days and a T-cell response within 14 days, according to a release from the medical journal The Lancet. That is the top medical journal by one of the two anyway, The Lancet. The trial included 1,077 people ages 18 to 55 with no history of COVID-19. It took place in 5 UK hospitals from late April to late May. Participants received the COVID-19 vaccine or the meningococcal conjugate vaccine as a control group. The immune system has two ways of finding and attacking pathogens, antibody and T-cell responses. Well, thank you for the science lesson. I'm familiar with physiology. Anyway, this vaccine is intended to induce both, so it can attack the virus when it's circulating in the body as well as attacking infected cells, Oxford Professor Andrew Pollard, the study's lead author, said in a statement. We hope this means the immune system will remember the virus so that our vaccine will protect people for an extended period. However, we need to do more research. No serious adverse related event to the vaccine. Fatigue and headache were the most commonly reported reactions. Other reactions included pain at the injection site, muscle ache, malaise, chills, feeling feverish, and high temperature. It's one of 23 COVID-19 vaccines currently in clinical trials globally, according to the World Health Organization. Well, I probably would have believed that more if it hadn't come from the World Health Organization, that last statement, but there you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, Brett says, what are my thoughts on Black American icon Malcolm X? Malcolm X was a very confused individual who had some interesting ideas, but was a very dangerous person, and that's kind of where I'll leave it at. The autobiography of Malcolm X. Yep. Something that was pushed on me as a young man. Yeah, Malcolm X is a complicated person. But it was a different time, the 1960s. Things were very different. The society was very different. The society that Black Lives Matter claims that this society is looks far more like that in 1962 than it does today. So, what else we got here? Everyone who thinks it's safe can go to their first shots. And yeah, ice. Yeah, let them try it out. We'll see how it goes. Do I like cricket? Kobus asked that question. If it isn't fully effective, wouldn't we just end up with mutated strains like antibiotic overusage? No, not necessarily. It's going to mutate anyway. That's just the nature of RNA. It changes. It's just the natural evolution. That you can't stop that. And using the vaccine won't accelerate it. The problem with antibiotics is when you use antibiotics, you don't give them the whole population, but you immunize a whole population of people, and that helps wipes out strains. So it's very different, Gareth, from that standpoint. Air Mauritius cargo fly empty to South Africa 2 times a week. They love taking passengers. It's income for them, but it's almost impossible to get DERCO permission to board a plane to go home. But you have it, right, Morton? You're going to see there. Brett says, I thought Malcolm X changed life after he went to his Hajj to Mecca. He seemed to renounce his anti-white views after that. Yeah, well, I mean, that's true. But the harm that was caused by his earlier comments is not mitigated by his change because he didn't live too much longer after that. Viruses. Yikes. The ticket is double the price, so I wouldn't be surprised. What investigation? What did Jez say? What did I miss? Jez said something, and Robert's saying the problem is the investigation goes nowhere. It appears racial motivated, might be political. Virus mutates on its own, bacteria too, but they are promiscuous and share DNA via sex organs, also not just antibiotics. Yeah. No, viruses do mutate, but again, when you hand out antibiotics, you're not giving to an entire population, and so you're giving more opportunity because you're not attacking the entire virus. But when you immunize an entire population, then you have a greater chance of wiping something out. That's how we got rid of smallpox in the wild. What was I going to do? I was going to do something here and show you guys something. Yep, absolutely the case. Jez, it's loving life. What are you guys talking to Jez about? What did Jez say that I missed? Jez said something that I must have missed. Here we go. Speaking from an ignorant mind, apologies, but can anyone fill me in with the farmers going south there? Are they racially motivated, opportunistic people? Jez, it's a combination of both, and then other things. You've got racially motivated attacks. Now you've got even more of them inspired by the nonsense from people like Julius Malema and members of the EFF and also the ruling African National Congress calling for occupying farmland, for murdering farmers, for killing the Boer, for cutting the throat of whiteness. Racially charged language like that has made the situation demonstrably worse in rural South Africa than what it was a decade ago even. But there's a combination of things. There's orchestrated campaigns by criminal syndicates. There's supposition, but little evidence thus far to show that some politicians are behind it. But definitely it's a combination of racial hatred stoked by politicians and crimes of opportunity. When I say crimes of opportunity, not, well, look, there's money, I'll take it. No, these are planned attacks. They're vicious, brutal. But when we see the vile way that people are assaulted, a woman who is raped with a broomstick, which is shoved through her vagina all the way up and it exits her neck. Now, what does that have to do with robbery? A 27-year-old Indian woman who's 4 months pregnant, who tries to protect her 4-year-old son, and so they slice her throat open and let her bleed out. 4 months pregnant, Indian. Yeah, so there's a lot going on here, those farm attacks. The problem is that the South African government has intentionally been covering up farm murders, plus more, for the better part of 26 years, even though they predate that time, but they've been covering it up for 26 years, and they like to pretend they don't matter. And when anyone brings it up, they're accused of being racist and or only caring about white people. Well, that's because the government willfully ignores the fact that other people. Did I just not mention a 27-year-old Indian mother who was butchered on a farm in KwaZulu-Natal? The farm attacks happen to all kinds of people: black farm workers, colored farm workers, black farmers, colored farmers, Indians, whites, all of them. But the press only plays up the brutal attacks on whites. And when groups try to bring the issue up, the government denies it happens. The president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, famously spoke to Bloomberg News in New York while he was there for the UN summit and claimed there were no farm murders in South Africa in response to a tweet from Donald Trump about farm murders. Well, that's just a lie. It's just a lie. Cyril Ramaphosa lied. It's simple as that. And it's shameful. Now we have people attacking livestock, poisoning livestock, burning farm fields in South Africa. To what end? The only intent here is to drive people off the farms. To what end? It's not like the farms are turned into something productive when they're abandoned, because they're not. It's just really tragic and shameful. And shame on the World Health Organization, on the United Nations, on the United Nations Human Rights Commission, on Human Rights Watch, on Amnesty International, on Washington, on London, on Brussels. Where are they when it comes to these murders, these brutal, horrific murders? Not to be found. Now we have a situation of a farmer who defended himself against someone trying to kill him and being charged with murder. Seriously? For defending himself. It's insane. Absolutely insane. Helen says her mother wasn't even a farmer. She was attacked. Yeah, no, you don't have to be a farmer. People attack people all the time, and not just whites. Just saw a member of parliament was just murdered, stabbed to death in his home in a home invasion in South Africa. The most popular victims are whites, Chris. Well, what do you mean by popular, Doggy Boy? I mean, because, okay, in sheer numbers, that's not true. 60 people per day are murdered in South Africa, and they're not all whites. They're predominantly not whites. This percentage of white population is higher. For farmers, this percentage, of farmers, yeah, it's astronomically high. Katie Hopkins came to South Africa, made a documentary about farm murders. Yes, and then she quickly backed out of the situation and has said nothing since then because she got wrapped up in that whole situation with John B. Wells and his wife. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, she's been very quiet since then. Yeah. Less than 5% of the farms in Zimbabwe and South Africa ran successfully after they were taken away and given to government cronies, and 5% is very generous. Yeah, it's probably too generous. I think you're correct, Brett. But even those not given to government cronies weren't productive. I'll explain why. So in Zimbabwe, what we had happen is with farm reform, with land reform, they took commercial farms. Now, what isn't talked about in Zimbabwe is that most of the commercial farmers in Zimbabwe started commercial farming after 1945. Why? Because a significant number of British Commonwealth War veterans migrated to Rhodesia after 45 to buy land, which they bought legally, it was available. And they took marginal farmlands, particularly in the southern part of Zimbabwe, and through proper farming techniques, modern farming techniques, irrigation, and other methods, turned it into productive commercial farmland. Now, we often heard that the whites stole all the good land, but in fact, that is not entirely a true story by even the closest, even the most remote of analysis. There's a fantastic book, very small academic book, which I have. I'll find it and bring it up here sometime, from an author who taught in North Carolina. And he did a book about this. He used to be a World Bank economist. And he shows Landsat photographs of the farmland, the commercial farmland in the dry portions of Zimbabwe, where communal farming is directly adjacent to it, and it's dusty brown, very little production taking place because they're small communal plots next to commercial, verdant green commercial farms that once were brown too until they were turned into productive farms. The Zimbabwean farmers took a market of $0 and turned it into a $300 million a year cut flower market by raising flowers in greenhouses in Zimbabwe and in fields and shipping them on Air Zimbabwe flights to the Netherlands to the flower market every day, or a couple of days a week. $300 million. That market is completely gone now. It doesn't exist anymore. So what they did is they took land and they gave it to people and they divided it up. Well, not every parcel of land that was divided up had access to the roads. Some were out through another field. You couldn't access them without walking through other people's land. Most of them didn't have access to water. If there was a free-flowing stream or creek or a pond nearby, only those who had to plot next to it or adjacent to it got the water. The rest of the land wasn't watered anymore because it belonged to somebody else. The lunacy, the idiocy, the stupidity, the moronic approach to land reform in Zimbabwe was beyond idiotic. Simply cutting up a farm into 10 little pieces and giving somebody a piece isn't land reform. It's stupidity. It also shows a complete ignorance for farming, for the environment, and for the rule of law. And I can go on for hours about Zimbabwe. It's something I'm very familiar with, very well acquainted with, and I don't kowtow to the people who try to call you names because I know what happens. Helen says land needs to be developed and managed correctly. You are correct. Tian says they bought a herd of 20 cattle for my dad to give to someone to start a herd. They slaughtered those and came back every year for 20 more of the same. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you for answering. Yes, on this matter, it's way too much explaining in chat. It is, Hank, and it was too much for me to explain. Yes, I have a live stream in which we talked about the land issue. Here, let me put that, not that, but let me put something up for if you're genuinely interested in this issue, Jez. Let me share this with you. I wrote this article about land and poverty in South Africa. It's on LinkedIn. Let me get to it real quick, and I'll put the link in there. And I encourage you to go read it. It's not a particularly long article. And I wrote it a couple of years ago. Let me see. Where are you at? Come on. Where's my... This thing is taking a while to load. There we go. Activity. So see all. It's an article that I published on LinkedIn. It's called Land and Poverty in South Africa. So let me find that very quickly for you, as quickly as I can. So I've got a bunch of rugby articles published in there too. But where's the land and poverty? Come on. Come on. Load. There it is. Land and Poverty, April of 2018. So 2 years ago, I wrote this article. You should check it out if you're interested in the land issue and what's happening. And this isn't directly about farm murders, but farm murders are directly impacted by this issue. So here you go, land and poverty in South Africa. Brett says, while most land that whites acquired in South Africa was not stolen, even the commercial farmland, that's true. Very little land was stolen. Some was stolen. Excuse me. Oh, it's an ice cream truck in the neighborhood. Some was stolen during the apartheid era, but most of it wasn't. But land was taken from white South Africans too. That's lost. Particularly land in the northwest around what became Bophuthatswana was taken from white farmers who were relocated to KwaZulu-Natal. People had lived up there for 150 years. Their land was taken from them. Now, far more black South Africans suffered than whites, but it wasn't like it was only black South Africans or Indians or colors. It was a lot of people. I'm a member of the Oranje Beweging. They have been for years. I visit there often. Okay, cool. Doug, I'm always talking about farmers. Since you were talking about farmers, and yes, more white farmers have been killed than black farmers or colored, but they've all been butchered. Brett says, did you ever see the documentary Mugabe and the White African? Yeah, are you talking about the farm that was stolen from Mike Campbell, and how he was beaten and severely injured and never quite recovered from that beating he received as a 70-plus-year-old. Mike Campbell's family and his son-in-law sued Zimbabwe and ZANU-PF and Robert Mugabe for stealing their farm, violating the rule of law, because they purchased it legitimately with the approval of that government. And what happened? What happened was they went to the Southern African Development Community Tribunal and sued. The SADC court ruled that Mugabe and ZANU-PF had violated their own laws and had ignored their own courts, and that they must return the farmland. Mike Campbell never got his farm back, and his son-in-law, Ben Free, is still fighting very hard. Yeah. No, I'm familiar with that. Very familiar. What's this? Oh, changing the speed. Yeah, something must be wrong with Erica's internet connection. It's also not reform of the Mugabe family got 8 farms. No, it's not. Yes, the apartheid government relocated people in areas that the farmers themselves went and stole land. No, they didn't. That's correct. The apartheid government did it and infected all kinds of South Africans. Donna Tango 63. Hi, all out doing errands and listening to Kristen fans. Thank you for discussing this matter. We'll replay. I've missed most. Yeah. But I did a land and poverty thing. Any of my moderators can go look that up for me. I sure moderator. Could you look up that stream and copy that link and paste it in here for the land debate that we had a couple weeks ago? And that way, if Jez wants to check it out, Jez can also check it out. The book called Mugabe and the White African was an excellent book. Ben Free wrote it. Bishop Tudor wrote the foreword. Mugabe was a monster, a psychopath. Yes, and ZANU-PF is a psychopathic party. Yep. The problem with this land relocation issue, the ANC is pretending they're not doing exactly the same thing. Well, that's one problem with it, Gareth. There's many problems with the whole thing. Notice that you sometimes say something in the line of white. What do you mean by that? What? I've noticed that sometimes you say... Oh, okay. Yeah, well, thank you, Dog. Good boy. Thank you for noticing it. Okay. All right. People who are considered white. Who is white? Are Italians white? Are Egyptians white? Are Tunisians white? Are Swedes white? I don't care for the term. It's a color. It's an adjective. It's a loose description. And that's why I say whatever white is. What I mean is that in many societies, people who are mixed race easily flow back and forth between one ethnic group and another. That's particularly the history of the United States here. Very common to see that, where people float back and forth between consider what's white or being considered black in different communities. And simply calling people white or calling them black is a bit silly in some respects. That's why I say whatever white is. Yeah, what I mean by that is that, okay, I'm white, right? But I'm actually kind of pink, actually kind of pink here. But I'm considered white. But if you're going to call people by their adjectives, then I look at people and I say that white would be, Scandinavians, Anglo-Saxons, Germanic people. But Italians, Serbs, Spaniards, Portuguese, are they white? Brett has given $1.99 through Super Chat and says, keep up the good work, Chris. Well, thank you so much for that, Brett. Really appreciate that Super Chat. Thank you, sir. There you go. Yeah, that's what I mean by whatever white is. It's a silly thing. And I say that because if you hear me say that, it should be pretty clear to you that I don't really I don't care. I started to say give us something, but I don't really care about white and black and people identifying. That's a silly thing. And it's used to denigrate a group of people. There are 226 million white Americans. Look, okay, let me give you an example here, folks. When you use this term, how it can be misleading. So, Vanessa Williams is black. She's got blue eyes. When I get a tan, I'm darker than her. She grew up and went to upper, rich, posh schools in New York State, upstate New York, from a family that was connected and wealthy and a life of privilege. She grew up with all white people. She white? Am I white? She identifies as black. I identify as American. Anyway, that's why I say, well, whatever white is. So, but you're very astute to catch that. If you disagree with how I term that, let me know. If you think that's odd, let me know. Appreciate you catching that. Great point on whiteness. Robin says, great point on whiteness. Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. It's just silly, Okay, so here's the thing. Let me put this in context, okay? All right. As pink as I am, genetically, I could have a black grandparent. Certainly a great-grandparent, but even a black grandparent. DNA is funny, folks. If you know anything about DNA, you study it. And I've been fascinated by it ever since I learned about Gregor Mendel and his peas and experiments with peas. Ever since then, and back in junior high school, it's been something that's fascinated me, DNA. DNA is funny. If you have a white parent, now here's an example. So when I was in Germany in the 1980s, I knew a non-commissioned officer who was black, but he wasn't really black. He was kind of brownish color. He was a black American, obviously had European heritage. He hooked up with a German woman. They got married. They had these twins, beautiful girls, caramel colored skin, but black facial features with nose and cheekbones and eyes and such. But they had blue eyes, eye sockets, not eyes, blue eyes, and they had blonde hair. Black kids, not dyed, they had actual blonde hair, lighter than my hair. And I used to have strawberry blonde hair, lighter than my hair, but brown skin and African facial features. Are they white or are they black? Their mother's white. Their father's part black. He's mixed race. Now, if those girls, now they're old enough, they've had kids by now, if those girls grow up and they hook up with a white guy, someone pink like me, and have kids, those children will be 1/4 black, actually less than 1/4 black, and very likely that they will be very much in appearance to someone who's white. So while black is a predominant gene when it comes to some features, that can disappear very quickly. So this nonsense about white and black is silly. It's really silly. And there are, if you want to talk about cultural differences and linguistic differences, yeah, those are real. But the race thing is a thing that we make up to categorize people, to divide them into groups for accounting or to take advantage or discriminate against. And it has to be stopped. It's just silly. It's just silly. So that's why I do the whatever white is thing, because people just throw it out there. And there was a reason I make a big point about making a note when it comes to the Associated Press claiming black is not an adjective, but it's a proper noun, and white is not a proper noun. Either they're both proper nouns or they're both adjectives. Make up your mind. In the South African context, to me, they're proper nouns. In the U.S. and the rest of the global context, they're adjectives, and that's how I view it. Anyway, so that's kind of, so there's where I'm kind of at. So, Robin, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Get you a little salute for that. Martin Van Voren says Queen Victoria was extremely white. Yeah. Helen says, hey, I have some of those freckles too. Yeah, I got a bunch up, man. A whole bunch of them here. Not risking my wife and children for a dream to farm. Yeah, I get you, Petrus. That's pretty scary. Asian Americans endured, this is what Brett's saying, come on, go back. Heavy discrimination, poverty for many years, but their education level and income is higher than that of white Americans. That's true. But that's, generally speaking, why is that, Brett? That's because education has long been valued. Now, you can't say this for the entire group of people who fall into this, especially when you say Asian, because that includes Pacific Islanders. And Pacific Islanders don't have the same cultural traits, by and large, that you see from Chinese, Vietnamese, Koreans, and Japanese who come to this country, or even Thais, even Filipinos. They tend to not have the same work ethic, by and large, and not perform as well. But Asians, by and large, do well because education is valued. Just like in the Jewish community, education is valued. It's seen as a mechanism for improving one's lot and for getting ahead. And there's a focus on it by parents and grandparents and family to achieve. That doesn't exist in much of many other groups in America. As if you can speak for a group. I hate saying speak for a group, but that's good stereotype. It's relatively accurate. Yanni, I am ginger as F. Yeah, you are kind of light there, Yanni. Yeah, Yanni, you would fall in the category that I would say is white, okay? Morton says, my father moved from Natal to Bulawayo in 1970. I did my schooling there. We left in 81. It was a fantastic place to live, even when the war was going on. Yeah, Bulawayo is pretty interesting, Morton. I enjoyed my visit there. I liked going to Matopos nearby, which is a beautiful spot. That's where Cecil Rhodes is buried. Beautiful park, lovely scenery. It looks like Mars when you look out over all the hills in the distance, little gumdrop-shaped hills in Matopos. Yeah, it's a really beautiful place. Yeah, Bulawayo is interesting. I found it interesting. I liked my trip to Bulawayo. Gareth says, so am I, but I haven't started going gray yet. Ooh, there's a dig. Ice says, well, will you let me identify as an American? I can let you identify as a sympathetic American, but until you have a green card, permanent residency, and or citizenship, you really can't be an American. You can be American sympathetic, though. Yanni, what's going on with Doggy Boys guy? Meghan Markle is a royal color shapeshifter and a pain in the rear. Yeah. Well, and what are her kids? She's half white. And her child is 1/4 black. at best. So, what does that mean? Who knows? That's why it's a silly description. These two may be silly, but teaching in school and on websites real history, the albino whites have lied about history that black Africans found in Britain and Europe. Okay. Albino whites? There are no such thing as albino whites, are there? Are there albino whites? There are albino blacks with skin pigmentation disorder, and they're eaten in East Africa. They're hunted down and chopped up and eaten by people. It's disgusting. Albinos are in real trouble. I suppose there's albino whites, but I haven't seen many of them. Yes, they are. Black Africans found in Britain, that's nonsense. Utter nonsense. Like ugly parents having good-looking children. It's possible. Yeah, it is possible. Eventually we'll all be Chinese. No, I don't think so. Erica, difficult colored woman. Martin says, my daughter is mixed Asian, blue eyes, dark hair with little Asian features, speaks Afrikaans and Chinese, but sees herself as white and not Chinese mix. Well, there you go, Martin. Your daughter is welcome to identify however she likes. People may look at her and have the impression she's this or that, but it gets a little complicated, doesn't it? Yep. And that's the point I make about the silliness of this identification and classification of people based on appearance. It's skin deep. Now, there's a cultural basis below that. So your daughter clearly has a cultural basis for Afrikaans and an appreciation for Chinese as well. I'm guessing this, Martin, is because you live in Hong Kong, and as a consequence, you've obviously linked up with an ethnic Chinese person, and that's in your daughter as a consequence of that. So congratulations. Your daughter must be lovely with blue eyes and those features. Anyway, Morton, a guy I know from school married a colored woman. Their first kids looked 100% Scandinavian. Second kid looks 100% Bantu. Yeah, DNA, folks. You get what you get. That's what happens. Yeah. They call it Obama beige. You guys. Dr. Boy says, yeah, I see your point, Chris, but I see it different. By white, I can identify with my in-group, my tribe, like different species. Yeah, okay, I got you, but your in-group, let's be fair, Dr. Boy. I'm not undermining, I'm not diminishing, I'm not insulting, but let's take this a step further. Your in-group. I don't have things in common with Poles or with Russians. Their skin may be pink like mine, they may be white, but that doesn't mean I'm the same, and I don't agree with them. So, it's the same. I think it's the same thing when people identify automatically. And let me give you an example how this can be silly, Doggy Boy. Here's another war story. Okay. So I've told this one before, but let me put this in context for this time. So in Ghana, my first trip to Ghana, it was funny because I was listening to talk radio, which was very active, very engaging. The Ghanaian talk radio is amazing. And they like to whinge on talk radio. And so one day I'm listening to a radio station driving around Accra, and people were calling and complaining. I said, these damn black Americans. I'm like, whoa, what is this about? And this is when I first became aware of this. They're complaining about black Americans because these black Americans come to Ghana and they're very annoying. They're opinionated. They're full of themselves. They expect people to wait on them and this, that, and the other. And they think they're Ghanaian or they're not Ghanaian. My point is that when you make a association skin deep, you're bound to have some challenges there at times. So a lot of black Americans migrated to live in Ghana starting 20, 30 years ago. And a lot of them live there. And they live very much like they did back home as Americans. Not as Americans, but as some as Americans, but some as African Americans. And they bring with them their historical grudges. I don't know any Ghanaians that are pissed off at the English for Ghana being a colony. I'm sure there are some, but I don't know them. Most Ghanaians that I know have long forgotten that period and don't care about it. And don't see that it is something limiting their ability. But black Americans who come and rail and moan and complain about slavery and about this and about that, things that were alien to these Ghanaians. Whenever I went to Ghana and hung out with my friends in Ghana, they were with me because we were more alike than these black Americans who were whinging about things, who felt entitled, who treated them differently. And I treated them the same, as equals. And we agreed for the same things. We liked the same sort of music. We got along. So I was black, I was black. I was white, they were black. It didn't matter. We were the in-group. The African Americans were the out-group there. So that's the danger of it. Now, yeah, it can work to some degree. I mean, people, you see, like I saw a video of a little white boy with ginger hair being punched in the face by this black girl who's twice his size. And my natural response was, oh, but was that because he was white or because I took offense that, this kid picked on a little toddler? That was more what I was upset about. Brett says Native Hawaiian culture can have a victim mentality at times, but I've known many Native Hawaiians who don't hate white people or are disgusted by anti-white hatred. Yeah. Any green cards in your desk? Sorry, Helen, I don't have any handy. Well, I need to see the injury from that hockey ball first, Helen. Let's see. No, just kidding. Freedom Association is no longer recognized. I've seen albino Chinese before. Yeah, it happens, and the same with whites. It's a skin pigmentation issue. It's a genetic change. I want to say defect, but people take offense to that. Lezan says, I'm luminous white with dusty hair now, but as a kid, I was very tan with white, not blonde hair. So tan that I was regularly confused as mixed race child. DNA is weird. Yeah, there you go, Lezan. Okay, that's what I was going to say. So if you watch the three Amibros with Ronaldo, Roman, and Germ, okay, let's do this. Now, they're going to hate me for this. Maybe they'll hate me. Maybe they won't hate me. All right, let's do a survey. All right, how many of those three people are white? Roman, Germ, or Ronaldo? Are all three white? Is one of them white? Are two of them white? Or are all three of them white? What are your answers, ladies and gentlemen, for those who know all three of those folks? And if you've tuned into the three Amibros, is Roman white? Is Germ white? Is Ronaldo white? Ronaldo doesn't count. He's red. Tian says one. Petra says all three. Yanni says 3 out of 3. They're all weird. Germ is a male social justice worker. I've just been uninvited from 3 streams. No, I'm just kidding. Left wing blue. Ronaldo's the only one. Karen says, Hank says 1. Okay. 1.5 of them are white. Okay. All right. Okay. You don't want to trigger anyone at 1. All right. Statistically speaking. Okay. You're all correct. You know why you're correct? Because my question asked you about your perception. How do you view things? Now, generally speaking, I would look at all three of them and say, yeah, you're white. But if I look closely at them, I would say only one of them is white. Ronaldo. Roman's not white. He's half North African. He's half Moroccan Arab. He's not white. I don't know what Germ is, but it looks like maybe he's got some colored in him somewhere, and he's always talking about it too. So I'm not trying to be facetious here, but the point is, ladies and gentlemen, it's your perception. And perception matters. So there you go. Ranger Jake says all 3. A lot of us said 1. You see? If I look at a Scot and I look at a Moroccan Arab, I see something very different from appearance. And to me, white is supposedly an appearance, not a cultural group. So Roman is weird. He's definitely interesting, yeah. Germ is an alien. Germ brands like a color. He does, Hendo. Hence, maybe it's not just appearance. Maybe it's cultural, too, for Germ. Anyway, I think you get a kick out of that. Germ is hilarious. But, yeah, anyway, so there you go. To describe it better, look at in-group preferences. Yeah, there you go, Doggy Boy. In-group preferences. Llewellyn Barracks in Bulawayo. What was that? I just jumped ahead of me. G. Wells says, I perused your land and poverty diatribe. Wow. Diatribe. Okay. Please represent the full narrative and not some made up hearsay. Okay. G. Wells. Why a diatribe? It's an article. Didn't yell at anybody or call anybody names or scream. It's not really a diatribe. And then the full narrative. What part of the narrative is missing, G. Wells? I've approached it from all sides. Talked about all people who came and occupied land in Southern Africa. So what am I missing? Please, G. Wells, share us that. Share that with us. I'd love to hear that. It's a good point. They've never been to Africa. I never get that African American. Yeah, it's a silly. It's this thing was made up. Ronaldo doesn't count. Okay, there we go. I love that Ronaldo's blue. That's a good one. Okay. You'll get hate mail from all 3 of them. I'm sure I will. Sorry, it was just an easy thing, to make the point. Again, in case anybody's missed it, the point I was trying to make is I want you to question your perception. And I question my perception all the time. So there you go. Are Portuguese white? Karen. Are Portuguese white? Yeah, it's a matter of perception. No Germ has Spanish blood in him. Okay. Germ is an alien. Brett says, can you tell the difference between black and colored South Africans? I can now. Yeah, of course I can. Absolutely. I also can almost all the time tell the difference between Koreans, Japanese, Chinese, Now, when I say Chinese, I'm talking about, specific types because there's all kinds of Chinese. Vietnamese, Filipinos, I can tell the difference almost always. It's where I get confused with specific islanders because they all look very similar, whether they come from Samoa or they come from the Marshall Islands and places like that. But there is a difference there too, but I have less experience with it. But with Asians, I can usually tell. I don't look at people and go, I can usually figure out where someone's from. And if I can't tell from the name, from their appearance, I can often get it from their surname. That often makes a difference. So your question was loaded because all South Africa, it's all white but one world. There you go, Lazon. It was a loaded question. Lazon figured it out. There are parts that need updating. From my article from 2 years ago? Is that what you're talking about, Rainier? The article is 2 years old, and I believe that it was accurate at the time. What's the situation at Starbucks? You still don't go? That's correct. I haven't been to Starbucks since 5 days because they make me wear a mask now. And you know what I say to that? Sick. Starbucks. It's not a requirement for me to wear a mask. It's a request here in this state. And so if I practice safe methods, I'm an adult. I'm familiar with infectious disease far more than any of the toads that run Starbucks. I'm making decisions from Seattle for me here in central Pennsylvania. Completely different situation. Seattle is inundated with COVID-19. Not the case here. Sia Khaleesi's a sellout, Sub-Zero. Yep, we were talking about that on Ronaldo's stream earlier, and I mentioned that early in this stream. You won't because you don't live in South Africa at the moment. Okay. This chat room is sending to a gossip room. We all end up in the naughty corner, including the moderators. Scots look different to Brits. Some do. There are some colored folks who are darker. That's true. Some who are lighter. You know the difference between a Boranoff or Connor? Only when they talk, Petrus. How successful was McDonald's from expanding in Africa? McDonald's has only made an effort to expand a couple places in Africa. They're in Morocco, they're in South Africa, and I think they're in Egypt. I've never been to Egypt, but I think they're in Egypt, and that's kind of the extent of where they've been. Where they've wanted to go, they've been very successful. McDonald's is huge in South Africa. It's done very well there. Brett says the mask works. I believe it helps stop the spread of COVID-19. Well, then wear it, Brett. Wear it all you like. I don't have a mask. No one issued me a mask. I have a handkerchief. It doesn't work. If Starbucks dropped their policy of must wear a mask, will you go again? Yes, I will. I will go back to Starbucks, Cobus. Yep, I'm a shareholder. I'm not going to cut my own throat. It's part of my retirement account. I've bought a lot of stock in Starbucks, and I got it at a very good price. So, yeah, I'll definitely go back. I'm not going to hold against them forever. I was even willing to forgive the National Football League. I was willing to go back to football this year until they started with this nonsense again. I was all ready for it. I was about to buy the magazines that come out every year for the fantasy football. I was ready to go back to having my 12 to 15 fantasy football teams every year. I was all psyched to get into it. I was excited about the draft. I watched the draft. I saw some amazing players drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. So excited about it. And then they started this social justice warrior nonsense, this uninformed stupidity, and there you go. Two staff members at my mom's care center have COVID, so my choice would be they all wear a mask. It makes me feel a little better if they do. Yeah, that's not unreasonable, Karen. If you've got someone who's ill, this definitely makes sense. Yep. Enzo says, do you believe COVID is a flu like Roman and germ would imply? Still flu with someone that has asthma, for example. Enzo, I've talked about this endlessly, but let me answer your question specifically since you're here. And Quentin, welcome. Quentin just popped in the chat. Good to see you there. Let me see if there's anything else here. Oh, you guys are talking to each other. Ranger's talking to me. I've dealt with all races and culture from all over the world. For me, it doesn't matter about race. I love learning new things about different nationalities. Bingo, Ranger. That's where I'm at. Quentin is late. Yeah, he is. Kung Fu Kenny says, I lost respect for South African cricket as well as... Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Okay, so, and someone asked me about if I like cricket earlier. I don't think I ever answered the question. I went to the Cricket World Cup in England in 2019 when I was over there. There you go. There you go. It's hard to see that. Was it 10 teams, 48 matches, one champion. I went to Edgbaston in Manchester to the New Zealand-Pakistan game. It was a Pakistan home game. Cricket, the one-day tournaments, I'm okay with. They can be a lot of fun, nice, relaxing thing, enjoyable to watch. Never played it. I'd like to play it sometime. It's kind of a cool-looking game. But I'll never have like the enthusiasm for it like I have for rugby and for football and for other sports, even for baseball. So back to the Enzo, your question. Do I believe COVID is a flu as Roman and germ would imply? Is it still a flu with someone who has asthma? Okay, so here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is my take on COVID-19, and it's been consistent from the outset. COVID-19 despite conflicting information we've got from the World Health Organization, the Chinese Communist Party, the Centers for Disease Control, the National Institutes for Health, the government of South Africa, the governments all over the UK, Europe, the United States. What we do know about COVID-19 is this. It is a highly infectious RNA virus. Like all RNA, it mutates. It can mutate fast, it can mutate a little slower. But it is highly infectious, and it is transferred by droplets, cough, and touch, and things like that. That's how you pick it up. It has a mortality rate of 0.2 to 0.25, or I'm sorry, 0.15 to 0.25% of 1%. So the influenza every year typically gets 0.1 to 0.15. So this is slightly higher than that. For those with underlying health conditions, immunocompromised systems like tuberculosis, malaria, HIV, hypertension, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, asthma, people with underlying conditions like that are at greater risk. Children seem to be largely unaffected by it, although that doesn't mean all children aren't affected by it, but predominantly they're unaffected by it. But the elderly were initially thought to be most at risk. Elderly with underlying conditions appear to be highly at risk, but as does anyone with an underlying condition. Rather than protect and isolate the vulnerable in our societies and our populations, we've shut everything down. So it's not the flu. I think the comparison that Jerem and Rahman are implying is that the mortality rate, because we were lied to, we were told by the World Health Organization, because they didn't have complete data, and rather than being honest about it, they just lied to us. And they said that 3.2 to 3.4% of those who contract the virus will die. That's a lie. It's simply not true. What they fail to focus on is that 80% of people who contract the virus are asymptomatic or have mild symptoms, and never hospitalized, and never tested for the virus. So they don't include those numbers. So it's dangerous. It's not the flu. If you have an underlying condition, you should protect yourself. But wearing a face covering is not going to stop the virus. It's not going away. And to pretend that it is, and to pretend that you are flattening the curve with that, is dishonest to the public and to the rubes who don't know about epidemiology and disease. That's what I think about this. So does that mean I'm opposed to face covering? No, I'm not opposed to it. In fact, when it wasn't required, I would go into a store and they asked me to do it. I would wear something over my face to make other people feel comfortable. But when people start to ostracize you and put stigma on you because you're not wearing a face covering and you're doing things that are appropriate to protect yourselves, like maintaining safe distances. I mean, if I'm 100 meters away from someone and they cross the street so they don't come close to me because I don't have a face, that's ludicrous. That's insanity. I can't launch the virus 100 meters. I couldn't even put it on a ball and throw it that far and hit somebody with it. It's just stupid. So yeah, it's a very dangerous, highly infectious virus, but the political hysteria is more dangerous and more infectious and is causing more deaths, malnutrition, and economic collapse and social discontent and disorder than the virus itself. That's where I sit on that. Yeah, but you shouldn't dismiss it out of hand. You should take it seriously. I wash my hands. What's this? What's this on my desk? Ooh, Purell hand sanitizer. Yes, I actually do take it seriously. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? One of the reasons why I lived in Africa for 20 years and never got malaria was not simply because I take prophylaxis. It's also because I keep my areas where I live and work clean and don't allow standing water to sit. It's also because I don't leave my windows open at night unless I have a screen in which mosquitoes can't get through, or I have a bed net. It's also because I use good practices beyond just a prophylaxis. The reason I've never gotten diphtheria is because I have immunization and I avoid situations. I've never gotten bilharzia or schistosomiasis because I follow the advice of medical practitioners telling me not to wade through creeks and streams in West Africa. Just don't do it. Now, my subordinate did that in Liberia, and guess what he got? Schistosomiasis. And my subordinate who replaced him, whom I told not to hire a Liberian to work for him as a domestic until she had been trained properly in sanitation and hygiene, ignored my advice. Hired her, and guess what he got? Giardia. 3 times, by the way. Anybody know what Giardia is? That's nasty, and it's entirely preventable if you use safe practices. COVID-19 is largely preventable if you take appropriate measures. I don't agree that hysterical wearing a face mask like we're frickin' Chinese running around the planet is going to reduce this. The virus is here. We were lied to and told it was seasonal. Well, if it's seasonal, why is it still growing in the United States in summertime when it was also growing in wintertime, and now it's wintertime in South Africa, and it's blown up like a damn freaking atomic bomb with nearly 400,000 people with confirmed cases in South Africa. Officials have no humility and honesty to tell us the truth. They don't know is the truth. They're learning as they go. If they were honest about that and stop giving conflicting advice. Remember in January, we were told masks are ineffective. Don't wear a mask by health officials the world over. Don't wear a mask. And then 2 months later, if you don't wear a mask, you're going to jail. Well, frankly, wearing a mask is a prudent measure if you're concerned you have an underlying health issue. There you go. But to pretend that wearing a mask is going to stop the virus is just insane. How about people maintaining appropriate social distance and not doing unnecessary things and not having unnecessary gatherings? That's going to have a far more effective response to limiting the impact of this. That's the bottom line. That's where I'm at. So, Enzo, I hope that answers your question. I hope I haven't triggered anybody or lost people. A couple people dropped off, but I think it's because it's late. Enzo, did I answer your question? And if so, are you satisfied with my answer? By the way, whoever it was earlier, G. Wells, whatever, did you come back and tell me what was wrong with my article that you disagree with? Sorry, I'm trying to get back to where I was at here. So, yeah. Lazan, who's in the medical profession, says, Brett, yes, masks do work to prevent spread, but none whatsoever from contracting disease. So if you can't, it's okay not to wear it, but must have a valid reason. Yeah. I have asthma. I can't breathe through the mask, so I'm not required to wear a mask. But that does make me vulnerable, but my asthma is mild. I have lost respect for South African cricket. Yeah, okay, got that right. Do you know how big the sport of cricket is in the USA? It's not very big, Copus. I don't know the numbers, but yeah, people do play cricket in the US, but it's really small. I didn't know that Cyril Ramaphosa owned McDonald's. That's interesting. How was the trip, Chris? Which trip are we talking about, Kung Fu Kenny? I'm lost. Which trip? Rugby versus cricket debate is easily solved. One mostly in summer, one's mostly in winter. You get to share. Sierra sold his McDonald's in 2016. Okay, all right. Robert says more than 99% recovery rate. That's true. Unlike Ebola, which has anywhere from a 30 to 90% fatality rate. Now that's scary. But even 3% fatality rate is pretty scary. But 1/10, 2/10 of 1%, not good. So let me address this response in South Africa because 7 school children contracted COVID-19 and now we want to shut the schools down. Okay, first off, was contact tracing done? From whom did they contract it? Did they contract from other students? They contracted from family members? They contracted in the combis that they were riding in that magically don't transmit the disease when people are sitting shoulder to shoulder, yet they're kept 2 meters apart in schools? Stupidity. Absolute stupidity. How many children contracted tuberculosis in that same time frame? And did we shut school down for that? No, we didn't. Interesting thing I observed today in the pharmacy. Guy was talking to the pharmacist afterwards. They cleaned the perspex. I asked why. They showed me droplets escape the mask. They do. Listen, the purpose of these masks initially, we have N95 masks for a number of reasons, but the primary reason we have it is for people in the healthcare profession not to infect people whom they're treating. Surgeons go into surgery and operate on people with a mask on, not because it's comfortable, not because it's sexy, and not because the patient is not transmitting to them. They wear a mask so that if they have something, they're not exhibiting signs of an illness, they don't transmit it to the patient. It's meant to protect the patient. That's the purpose for it. Other masks that we wear are meant to protect us from inhaling things like asbestos and other things that are dangerous for us, working in mines, working around paint and things like that. But they're not foolproof. And to pretend that they're foolproof and give people a false sense of security is dangerous. Helen says, we haven't seen you sneeze. Who knows how far you can launch a bug? That's a good point. It escaped the mask and sat in the... Okay. There are many disturbing videos of people attacking those who choose not to wear the mask. Their agenda behind this is working and truly dividing people. That's correct, Robin. Absolutely. So I'll tell the story again, but what happened to me in a Pier 1 store the other day, which is somewhat comical. England have football, Aussies, cricket, swimming. Okay. I'm trying to catch up on the chat. What's the craziest drug you've been on? This is an intellectual question. I don't take many drugs. Enzo, did I answer your question? I didn't see you say if I answered it. And I never saw HG or G Wells or whoever it was come back and answer. Enzo says, what's the craziest drug you've ever been on? I don't like drugs at all. I don't like taking Tylenol, ibuprofen, or what's the stuff they always give? Paracetamol, which doesn't work at all. Paracetamol in the UK or in the Commonwealth countries. I don't like taking them. I'll take them. I actually took some Tylenol earlier because I had a bad headache because I was dehydrated. So I was busy. But I don't care for drugs at all. I try to avoid them. Probably the craziest drug I've been on is mefloquine, which people say makes people crazy and causes all kinds of problems. I know it's very hard on your liver, but I took mefloquine as a prophylaxis for malaria for a long time, for 17 months, one stretch, well, 2 years almost. And it was more than 17 months altogether, but there was a tour of 17 months in between there. That's about the craziest thing I've ever taken. I've had synthetic, what the heck's it called? I've had some synthetic narcotics when I had surgery that they gave to me. It didn't work, though. I was in agony. It wasn't a very serious drug. And they asked me if I wanted something stronger, like an opiate. And I'm like, yeah, that's okay. I'm in pain, but there's no addiction from pain. I won't be addicted to pain, so let me suffer. And now I'm not saying that works for everybody, and it was even wise on my part, but that's what I did. Growing a beard to prevent COVID-19. Enzo says, yes, you answered my question well, but also I'd like to pet your beard in a non-offensive way. Okay, here you go. Here you go. Nope, he pulled a Christian. That AIDS Wells. Thank you, Tunes. Yeah, he pulled a Christian and said my article is a diatribe and it's one-sided. Well, okay, tell me what's one-sided about it. If you're just going to complain and you're not going to say, we can disagree. If you think you're right, unless you have a weak argument, why would you run off? So, yeah, pulled a Christian. There you go. Speaking of which, guess who hasn't been around for a while, ladies and gentlemen? Christian. At least he hasn't been vocal in the chat. Maybe Christian's here. Christian, if you're here, say hi. Germs and viruses. Yeah, so by the way, folks, I did a stream on that way back when. People asked me, what's your interest in epidemiology? And I explained it. I also showed them a section of my book collection. And that was a live stream we did a few months back. Let's see if I can find that one really quickly. That's a video from a live stream that we did. It's been in April. I think that's when it was. Let me see what that was. I'll put that up here if you're curious. That was one where I sat down to answer questions from people and talked about my interest in epidemiology and virology and those sorts of things. In fact, infectious disease, which goes back a long time for me. Over 3 decades, I've been interested in it. So, I have 244 videos listed here. Wow. I didn't know I did that many of these things. I'm trying to get back to that. There's Ronaldo was on here on May 29th. Seemed like it was a lot longer than that ago, but that's when Ronaldo was on the channel. Come on. And I had just over 1,000 subscribers then when I had Ronaldo on the channel. Still going back here to May 4th, and I haven't found what I'm looking for yet. There it is. Virus, the unseen horror for mankind. Yep. I did a 1-hour stream on this. My interest in viruses and bacteria began decades ago. As an intelligence professional, I was always thought that the threat was much more than simply the opponent or enemy. Weather, the natural environment, and little strands of RNA can prove far deadlier than any artillery or bullets ever were. Join me for a discussion of this subject and a collection of books on the topic, and my collection of books. All right, so I'll share that with you guys if you want to check it out. If you missed that stream, that was from a while back. Ooh, Erica. Wow. Oh, cesarean. Oh, okay. I'm already creeped out. I don't need to hear any more. Cutting layer by layer. That's why you're a medical and dental hypnotherapist. Okay. Gotcha. Kobe says, people always complain and can't back complaints of facts or counter-arguments. Yep. A lot can't. I do. Otherwise, I don't just launch into attacks on people. Oh, SpaceX launching just now. Sorry, Chris. Have to go and watch that. Oh, there's no astronauts on it. What are you going for, Quentin? 1915. Yeah, well, it came a little bit after that, but yeah, it killed a lot of people, including a lot of my relatives in Maryland and Baltimore from 1918, 1920. I lost a lot of members on the Irish Catholic side of my family who died from that. Dagaboy says, here in Potchefstroom, there's a high school where there were 9 kids with COVID, but the news reported that 40 had a sensational fear-mongering hidden agenda. Yeah, there's a hidden agenda. Absolutely. Absolutely. And why are these people not at all concerned about kids and education? Any other time the left is freaking out about education, why do they not care about people being educated right now? Interestingly enough, the day that I did that virus stream, I was actually wearing the jersey that goes with this cap, this CRC Collegiate Rugby Championship. I just noticed that because anyway, so check that out, guys. That was kind of cool. That was back in a long time ago. It was a fun one. I really enjoyed that stream. always complain. Okay. What else we got here? Yeah, Erica, TMI. That's right, Hendo. TMI. Thanks, Erica, for sharing. But no, you don't have to apologize. It's like, whoa, sorry, it's a gender thing. I don't want to talk about childbirth. I'm not interested in that. No, I'm just kidding. Teresa Smuts, so deadly you have to be tested if you have it. Yeah. Point taken about mortality rate between SARS mortality, we were told was going to be horrible, horrific. It was very low as well, and it also didn't spread. Yeah, Helen says C-sections are the worst. Yeah, no doubt about it. Just the concept of it's never been hip for me. Gareth says, my kid's SGB is interested. High school had 4 cases, but teaching is important. The teachers are all there by choice. Yep. Why the government take so many draves? Well, that's easy, MF. Is that for male, female? That's because dirty, illicit BEE contracts were awarded to companies to dig holes in the ground so they can make money. There you go. And the government can propagandize, trying to give people that. Yeah, the chat room is very active tonight, folks. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. But let's do a quick look at this. Last time I checked, it was not that high. Here we go. Let's check out what the numbers are in South Africa at the moment, the most recent reporting numbers. And this is not from Johns Hopkins, which I used to rely on, but the Worldometer, which is it's fine. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, South Africa now has the 5th highest number of cases in the world. 5th highest number of cases in the world when it comes to COVID-19. So congratulations, African National Congress and the National Coronavirus Command Council. Your actions have accomplished so much. Destroyed the livelihoods of tens of thousands of South Africans. You've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of South Africans in hunger, starving these days. You have people who now have been criminalized for sitting in their lawn, for walking off of a sidewalk, turning them into abject criminals. And now you're 5th in the world. A country of just 57 million people, and you are behind the United States with 330 million people, legal. We've got illegals too. 330 million. Brazil, India with 1.6 billion people. Russia with 145 million people. And there's South Africa in 5th place. Isn't that something? With 5,000 deaths. Ladies and gentlemen, in South Africa this year, at least based on historic numbers the last 3 or 4 years, has at least had, now this might be not accurate because interactions have been reduced because of COVID, but most likely we have 35,000 HIV deaths thus far this year and 30,000 tuberculosis deaths. Did we shut the country down because of tuberculosis, which is highly infectious and more dangerous than COVID-19? No, we didn't. Now, that's one time when people have it, they wear the mask because you don't want to cough and spread tuberculosis on the uninfected. So you do give active TB cases masks to wear. That's people who should be wearing a mask. Or people with COVID-19, they should be wearing it too if they've got it. 5,000 dead in South Africa. And we don't even know if these are actually people who died from COVID-19, if it was actually the proximate cause, because as we've seen here in the United States, someone is killed in a motorcycle crash, the death certificate says COVID-19. Seriously? That is not the proximate cause of that person's death. Anyway, 5,000. Versus 30,000 for tuberculosis this year. And I say that's so far because the numbers actually double that for a full year. 70,000 HIV, 60,000, 61,000 from tuberculosis. So far 35 and 30. So 65,000 from those 2 diseases, one of which is highly infectious and easily caught tuberculosis, yet just 5,000 people from COVID-19, assuming that's even a valid number. 5,000. And the government's building digging 1.5 million graves. Somebody is playing games with the public, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody, and it's not me. 4th place. Garrett says 4th place is huge. No, it's not. No, it's not. South Africa had 1,800 cases 3 months ago. Now it has 364,000. And gaining 15 to 25,000 per day, that can gain steam. That number could easily top 1 million here in just a few weeks at this rate. I'm not predicting it will. I'm saying it could. 59 murders per day. Thank you, Teresa. That is correct. Sack of cock. Thank you, Tunes. Her government can only win at failing. Have we got oxygen in Gauteng yet? I need oxygen in Parliament. The Graves issue needed to find a way of capturing some of the 500 billion. Yeah, for the cadre. Rainier Duplessis, I'm sorry if you didn't have philosophy as part of education, then you have no education. Interesting. Discovered in the 1950s. Cool. Thank you, Rainier. Appreciate you sharing that. HIV and TV are preventable. So is COVID-19, Helen. It's preventable. You can prevent it. Otherwise, we'd have a lot more people who have it. They've obviously avoided it. What's your favorite gun? I have a 12 gauge shotgun and a R1 Combat. I really like a 12 gauge is good. 16 gauge, I had affinity for 16 gauge for some, but what I really like, I know they're small and they're not going to take out big targets, but I really like a 410. 410 is a shotgun I really, really enjoyed. It's small, it's compact, it's still got a decent kick. It just feels good. I really enjoy it, but I haven't had a shotgun in a long time. So yeah, 410 is the shotgun I like the best. My favorite gun, I don't know. There's a lot of rifles that are really good. It's hard to say. Donna Tango 63, health chat is hilarious. Simple as I get colonoscopy. Oh my goodness. Your toenails removed from a colonoscopy? That must just be a coincidental thing. HIV and condoms, yeah, but you get HIV through blood transfusions, intravenous drug use. There's other ways to get it. Yep. There's treatment for TB and HIV. Yeah, but we have multi-drug resistant versions of tuberculosis which are not treatable by drugs. There's no last line defense against multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, Jointy, so it's not entirely a true statement. Also, it's a horrific condition. You don't want to get it. HIV treatment, yeah, you're taking toxic pills that are killing you slower than HIV, but they're still killing you. And that's the fallacy. A lot of people have been lax with their behavior when it comes to HIV and protecting themselves because we have antiretrovirals. Well, that's a false dichotomy. Antiretrovirals are toxic medication which damage your body, and you don't want to take them if you can avoid them. TB for condoms. They were talking about HIV. Over face, maybe. Please talk about anything else. Not okay. We'll move on. All right. So let me find another story to get back onto there very quickly. Yeah. Any other topic? I agree. Let's move on to that. So I talked about Super Rugby already and New Zealand going its own way. So yeah, let's get off that topic. Oh yeah, here you go. We talked about this briefly, but what do you guys think about this one? This is bizarre beyond belief. So here, well, actually, no, I'm not going to talk about that because that's COVID, so that wasn't fair. But what about this? What do you guys think about this? I talked about this earlier. I mentioned it briefly, but Trump is going to send federal agents in to deal with the chaos in Chicago, Detroit, New York, Baltimore, Oakland, and Philadelphia. Is this something within his purview as the chief executive? Is it a conflict between federal and state responsibility, or is it a legitimate thing for the President of the United States to do? I know where I stand on that. Where do you guys stand if you want to share your thoughts on that? All right. What else? There was something else here. No, these are all COVID. I'm trying to get away from COVID stories here. Yep. Oh, we did the non-binary lady yesterday, so I'm not going to talk about her. That was interesting. Now, people wanted me to bring on the channel Odez. I've been to Odez's channel. What's Odez? What do you guys like? What's so good about Odez that you guys want me to bring Odez on the channel? And the other thing is, what about Miss Els? Why do you want Els on the channel? I watched a bit of her stream, and I'm trying to figure out who she is. I found a webpage for her based on a link that somebody sent me, and it takes me to, she's an artist or something like that, but I really can't find who she is and why she's involved in this issue. So if you guys could share with me. Top favorite 3 movies, or at least a favorite recent. Top favorite, gosh, a lot of good movies over the years. Actually, I thought it was cute at the time, and while it was written by Nora Ephron, I don't hold that against the film, but I really liked You've Got Mail back in the day. That was a pretty entertaining movie. North by Northwest is one of my all-time favorite movies. That's a brilliant Alfred Hitchcock movie. There's a lot of really, really, really good movies. When The Matrix first came out, it blew my mind. I was actually stationed in Italy and went and watched it in English in an Italian theater, and I was just glued to the set, The Matrix. The rest of them were okay, but the first one, the first time was, Mr. Anderson. I just love that. Oh, Wyank Dutoit. I wrote to Wyank Dutoit. He's not responded 2 weeks ago, Dogga Boy. So if you have a connection with Wyank Dutoit, please do it. Odez, I haven't contacted yet. I have asked the Kifness if they would be willing to come on the channel. I'd love to interview. Shawshank Redemption, I've never watched. Yeah, surprisingly, never watched it. Other good movies that I really, really love. There are just so many of them. And not all of them are movies that people think were particularly big, but I'm just drawing a blank right now on which ones. But of late, I haven't watched any really good movies lately. It's a shame. Bridge over the River Kwai was good. I enjoyed that years ago. The Matrix is epic. Yeah, Conan the Barbarian, I loved it back in the day. Fantastic. How dare you not watch Shawshank? Why don't I watch a movie about prisoners in jail? I'm not a fan of Star Wars. Star Wars is okay, but these people go overboard with Star Wars. When it comes to Star Trek, most of the Star Trek movies are okay or suck. The one exception is, what's the one where they go to the planet and they protect these people who are trying to steal? Avatar was fantastic. Thank you, Petrus. I enjoyed Avatar. That was a really good movie, really well done. Cool stuff. Even though it's a Hollywood liberal perspective, they beat you over the head, you know, oh, the natives, oh, the poor noble natives, you know. It was still a really good movie. Rainier says, too old to do the shooting, but I can still hack your brain. Let's eat some owls. They seem pretty good. Can you see? See if you read this. You now have at least one considered eating owls. I've never eaten an owl. That's from a movie. Martin's rating on a reply from Lakota. Okay, thanks. Cliffhanger. Oh, yeah, Doggy Boy, thank you. Cliffhanger. I love Cliffhanger. That was brilliant. That was filmed in northern Italy. Fantastic. In the Dolomites, which is right near where I used to live in Italy. Yeah, I really love Cliffhanger. That was a well-done movie. Really well done in all aspects. It was great. Schindler's List was really good. Oh, by the way, I got away from it. I did want to cover this before we lock out for the evening. So the 1970 was great. I haven't seen that movie yet. But I did want to share this because no one ever got back to the answer on that. I asked the question, who is Joel Pollak? Or where is Joel Pollak from? And if anybody knew that answer. So let me get back to that. That was the story on the AP, the Associated Press, about the lowercase white, uppercase black. So Joel Pollak is from Breitbart. And this is his book that just came out, Red November, which I've already started reading. Will the country vote red for Trump or red for socialism? There you go. Okay, how am I get this thing? Get this away from my face. There we go. So Red November, Joel Pollak. Joel Pollak was born in South Africa, ladies and gentlemen. He lived in South Africa all of 8 weeks before his parents immigrated to the U.S. South African Jews, they came here. He was a leftist, a dyed-in-the-wool leftist, like Marhobani was a leftist. And then he saw the light as he saw the hypocrisy and the nonsense and the gobbledygook that the left was putting out. Yep, that's right. So he's a reformed leftist, and sometimes the most fervent anti-Marxist and leftist are reform leftists. This is a pretty good book. I've already gotten through, I don't know, about 30 pages of it, just sat down. Yeah, 30 pages. And there's some fantastic quotes in here. I'll read some of these in a future stream, but not today. You know it's a good book when you do this. Let me find a page here. There you go. You know it's a good book when you highlight your books and they look like this. Look at that. Look at all that highlighting in there. Tons of stuff. I was disappointed in the Marvel movies. Most of them are pretty lame in my view. Wasn't impressed with the Iron Man series. People love it. I thought it was okay at best. Wasn't that great. The Lord of the Rings was impressive, but I read them as a kid. I read all of those books, The Silmarillion, The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings. And while it was impressive, I was hoping for a little bit more. Some people were like, what? No, it was good. It was good. Peter Jackson's movies were good, but I was kind of expecting a little bit more on that. I actually like The Usual Suspects with Kaiser Sose. I joke about that. Saving Private Ryan. I was in tears, ladies and gentlemen. I was actually in uniform, and the commander in Italy had all of us come watch as an officer of professional development. Saving Private Ryan was really well done. Forrest Gump, I liked it, but it's kind of The Green Mile I've never watched. Never watched that. The Outpost, that one. Lord of the Rings, Zulu on my stoop. Actually, the movie Zulu with Michael Caine, his first motion picture movie, I thought was brilliant. Really well done. Great cinematography, filmed in the early 1960s in Natal. Fantastic. That one's really good. Storybook time reading. Yes, Chris. Okay, thanks, Robin. There Will Be Blood, Batman trilogy. Hobbit was disappointment. You mean as a book? Yeah, it was a little disappointing. Apocalypse Now was good, but I was young when that came out, and it was a little confusing, even though I got Thin Red Line. Godfather, I don't care for that at all. I should watch The Green Mile. Okay. No, the movies sucked in comparison to Tolkien books. The movies didn't suck at all. Yeah, there you go. That's just, okay, Lazan is just trying to make a point of how great the books were. The books were amazing. Yeah, at least the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Animals Are Beautiful People. Zulu featured the Martini Henry, one of my favorite guns. Yeah, that was a great movie, Ice. Really, really enjoyed it. Michael Caine, Lieutenant John Shard was his, and he played Gomville Bromhead, or whatever it was. Yeah, that was Lieutenant. They awarded 9 Victoria Crosses for that battle. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Now there were some kind of lame scenes in it where guys got stabbed and fell. It was obviously Hollywood, but for the time, the cinematography is fantastic. The story was great. I used to use that movie as to teach leadership to cadets, to show them examples of leadership. So for those who saw the movie Zulu with Michael Caine from like 1962, I think it was, something like that. In that movie, Private Hook is a malingerer, and so he goes to the dispensary to get out of work. But in the end, Hook becomes a leader. Just as a private, nonetheless, even though he was a private, he did lead people and set an example which saved lives. And I use that as one of the examples on how you lead. I also used the example of Lieutenant Shard and Lieutenant Bromhead. Fantastic movie. Really well done. Michael Caine was fantastic in that movie. Beautiful golden locks of hair he had back then, too. Check out Firebox. Okay. Okay, people taking off. Force-fed Zulu. American Sniper. I have not seen American Sniper. Cheech and Chong. Yeah, Cheech and Chong were fun. Sub-Zero. I enjoyed Cheech and Chong. Up in Smoke was a hilarious movie. Probably wouldn't be so funny today, but it was funny then. The War Horse. Platoon. Platoon was good. Not one of my favorite movies, though. Dr. Zhivago is good. Not one of my favorite movies. Yeah, so there you go. What else we got here? Best book you ever read has to be Dan Brown, Angels and Demons. First and only book that ever... Yeah, Angels and Demons is really good stuff. Dan Brown is quite an author, and the movies they did are pretty good too, based on that. Cobus, yeah, there you go. Braveheart. I watched that in the theater in Ames, Iowa, as I was getting ready to teach at Iowa State University when it came out in '95, and Braveheart was amazing. I had no idea it was like a 19-hour movie. So it's hitting the movie, and the film stops, and everybody gets up. I'm like, where's everybody going? Oh, it's intermission. We're just going to get some popcorn. I'm like, intermission? I'm like, wow, it's been 2 hours already? I had no idea this movie went that long. Yeah, that's a brilliant movie. But I also like The Gods Must Be Crazy. That was a great movie in its time. You know, really good stuff. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Brazil was great. There you go. Blade Runner is good for its time. The new Blade Runner kind of sucked, although the cinematography was better. Heat was good. Tombstone, nah. Lost Boys, nah. The Big Lebowski. I've never watched that. Yeah, so I haven't watched that one. Anyway, wow. Did you watch the Story of God series with Morgan Freeman? Yeah, that's the one, Jonty, that was on the Science Channel or something like that. I've seen parts of that. He also does Through the Wormhole or something like that, which is a pretty good series. Debbie Does Dallas. Okay, we've definitely taken a turn in the wrong direction now. Morton's quoting Debbie Does Dallas. Yeah, The Gods Must Be Crazy. That movie. By the way, the son, the Bushman gentleman who was in that movie, is from Namibia. He's from Namibia. That's right. He died prematurely. I think it was his late 40s, early 50s when he died. But he was from Namibia. Fascinating story. Yep. Reservoir Dogs was good. I actually liked the Long Run, which is a South African movie, and also liked what was the Zulu movie? The first movie ever done as Zulu. It was about HIV. I thought that was a very powerful film. Gareth says, you haven't seen Shawshank or The Big Lebowski. What happens to U.S. military? We train, we fight, we defend, and we move on. Yeah. I also like Kevin Smith's movies, Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy, all those movies, yeah. More excuses. Well, I'm sorry, Gareth. That's funny. You guys are too much. Yeah, there's no shortage of great films in Hollywood, really. But there's also a lot of Fargo. Oh yeah, Fargo. Well, saw that in Iowa. I saw that in Iowa, and Minnesota's right next door. Fargo was actually, well, that was a shocker. I was like, whoa, yeah. I haven't seen Matilda. Favorite movie is still A Time to Kill. But you must really check out Shawshank Redemption. Okay, thank you, Lazad. Yesterday, thank you, Morton. Yesterday, that's the film. I started to say that. That's the first ever all Zulu language film. That was, music. Okay, let's talk music really quickly. We're running out of time. Fargo, I have not watched the series. Don't know if I can say this. I enjoy Leon Schuster. Yeah, Leon Schuster's great. His older stuff is funny. I mean, the newer stuff, I don't really get it. But back in the day, Leon Schuster was hilarious. He made fun of people, and then, I pointed out the hypocrisy of things. Have you seen the recent movie Escape from Pretoria by Daniel Radcliffe? I have the DVD, Kung Fu Kenny. I bought it on sale for like $3.74 in Walmart, and I do want to watch it. That's about the two white guys who broke out of prison and got away from the apartheid state. Yeah, I'll try to watch that sometime soon. Daniel Radcliffe is not a bad actor. He's more than just Harry Potter, so hopefully he'll have a successful career. Okay, let's talk music, Sub-Zero. What do you want to, really quickly? Hey, I'm starting to look like Jeff Bridges, just need the accent. That's funny. His mother's South African. Whose mother's South African? Jeff Bridges? I know that. Rammstein. I don't listen to Rammstein. I know the group. It's a German group, not someone I listen to. Tron. Tron was interesting for its time, but it really wasn't that great a movie. It was just kind of groundbreaking. Actually thought I liked the later Tron, the one they did afterwards, like 20, 25 years later. Yeah, but Tron was groundbreaking for its time. Daniel Radcliffe. Yep. All right. Well, we'll save music for another time, folks. I'm going to go ahead and drop off now. It's getting late. It is now, I think, 11:30 in, is that right? 11:30 in South Africa and in Botswana. So I'm going to give folks a chance to hit the rack. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Listen to XXXTentacion if you're serious about your music. Okay. Wagner. I love Wagner. Yeah. Also, I like Handel, the Water Music Suite. Good stuff. Yep. Anyway, so folks, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. You're most welcome, Kung Fu Kenny. You guys have a good night. I'll catch you tomorrow here on Chris Wyatt Africa. And we'll talk about more news of the day. And maybe we'll talk about music preferences tomorrow, folks. So thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. There was a super chat. I've forgotten about that now. Sorry, let me go check that out. Super chats and give people credit and recognize them for that. No new members this stream. But let me double check and make sure a member didn't slide in. Nope. Robin, you joined yesterday, and Gareth joined yesterday. So thank you so much for that. If I didn't recognize that previously, I think I did. Robin Hassan and Gareth David joined. Thank you so much for becoming members. Takes us up to 76 members. Thank you so much for that. And then super chats. Brett gave super chat in this session saying keep up the good work. He gave one earlier of $10. Thanks for that, for both those. And Kyle gave one earlier too, as well as the flying boar, but I think that was yesterday. But thank you all so much for the super chats and for support for the channel. God bless. Have a good night, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I need to get some more music back in here for my closeout. I've got to sort this issue out with this third party telling me I can't play Giselle's music because I'm tired of not playing it. So we'll have to get it. We'll have to get it back on. We'll try to make that work sometime soon. All right, folks, let me close. I'll get rid of this here before I close. Come on, where's it at? The member thing, I got to get away. Otherwise, it'll be in the way. So member goal. The member goal is gone. And now I'll do the closeout. Have a good night, folks. God bless.